You're listening to the Shake and Wake Radio Network, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will make you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. It is a system which has conscripted.
The number of people is going to have to get pretty near to zero.
Stabilize the population. We're too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. If there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What do you know you can't explain? But you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. That you are a slave. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. For your mind. For your mind.
Breaking out of prison. One mind at a time.
We are the TwoRealNews.com
Broadcasting team on the Shake and Wake Radio Network.
and we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, gentlemen. Welcome to Two Real News. Welcome everybody that's tuning in on Shake and Wake Radio right now. It is a special late broadcast we're having here of Two Real News on this wonderful Easter Sunday here of the 5th of March or 5th of April, 2015. How you doing there, Jason?
I'm good, man. How the heck are you?
Oh, sticking in there, hanging around.
Happy Yeshua
Resurrection
Rising.
Sunday. Yeah, or I mean,
Amen.
technically, as we've had there, as I said, regardless of the dates of continuity or whatever we're saying at the specific day it's on, be it would have really been a Resurrection Saturday or, you know what I mean, a Resurrection Sabbath or a Resurrection Sunday or whatever. Jesus died on Friday or Sunday or Wednesday or anything like that there, or whether or not the term itself, Easter, is even appropriate, as thus, Ishtar and the pagan practices and all that type of stuff. Regardless, happy celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
You bet, and that's well said, and you can't get that any better. I mean, this is the one holiday that I do celebrate. This is the one, and we can't have it any better. Jesus rose.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, regardless of even when, if you're somebody that celebrates on a Saturday or whatever, it's the fact that you're celebrating it, and more importantly, is that you remember it every day of your life. It is a lot more important even than one specific day of what people will try and use, and I think that's one thing that Christ himself, of trying to overthrow or essentially fulfill the old covenant and start the new, of overturning the idea of that people become so bogged down in religious practices of the date, of the time, of, you know what I mean, of all this type of stuff, right, of observances, that they start to lose the genuity of it. You know what I mean? The sincerity starts to become lacking because it just becomes lost in the monotony and the repetition.
Yep. And let me say, when I say that we celebrate this, we there's no bunnies here. There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing pagan as far as that goes. I mean, this is strictly there. You don't see any bit of that here. We celebrate the resurrection of the Almighty Yahshua.
Yep. And if there's any eggs, it's what you're eating for breakfast there.
Exactly.
Always good stuff, because then you see a lot of this stuff that's come from the early so-called Christian church, which is in reality they're the Catholic Church, which has absorbed a lot of the pagan practices and of the specific cultures in the areas in which they're proselytizing to people, which they're trying to spread mission there or whatever. They start absorbing, you'll see in the Irish Catholic Church, they have a lot of Irish or Druidic pagan practices of pre-Christian practices that they still have absorbed or amalgamated into Irish Catholicism, just like Roman Catholicism or a Greek Orthodox Church or anything like that. But it's not those things that we celebrate. If anything, it's that we'd like to strip out of it there.
Indeed, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see all the holidays that we do celebrate seem to have some stem from some definitely back in the day style stuff that you're right, it's Catholic Church.
Yeah, even Valentine's Day, I heard, is also satanic. So,
well, the symbol itself that we use for our idea of heart is a caduceus. It's not at all shaped like a human heart. That's where we get that idea in the first place. The two-headed, the snakes that are touching there or whatever, usually around either a staff or a sword, and that's part of their thing of the generative principle, and like eternitas, and also the what is it? The two-headed, the left-hand path and the right-hand path type of garbage there that they put out.
Yeah, you'll see that across every doctor's office everywhere. They always have that staff with the two snakes rolling up it.
Yep, and it's once you understand the significance of that, then it's almost more like people being stamped, essentially. You know what I mean? Of we know who you're working for. We know, regardless whether or not you do. It's you got it on you. May as well have his mark on your forehead there. Who knows?
Yep.
But
you're right.
Kicking it off,
pretty
with some
bizarre.
Well, indeed.
I mean, the more you wake up, the more you realize that you're in some purgatory place between heaven and hell, and there's only one way out, and it's
exactly.
Jesus.
And a lot of people, even within this movement, there will get so bogged down and so angry at Christian practice there and everything, or Christian dogmas, because it's all by grace, not by your own works. And so many people want to be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps there. They want to be able to save themselves through their own selfless action and everything. And only, God resides inside you. It's in all this just garbage. I'm not saying that the Spirit of the living God can't reside within you and everything like that, but that it's you don't save you.
Right.
In fact, the important part is confessing that you can't save you. And that's
right.
That's the entire...
Right, so all that other stuff, right. So all that other stuff is robbing the creator of his position as the Redeemer. That's what Yeshua means, by the way. One of the definitions is Redeemer, Rescuer.
Right. Well, I think that so many people, even within our own movement here, are essentially preaching and practicing the exact point of view, the exact perspective that made Satan fall.
Right.
Pride.
Right. And, it doesn't matter what. There's so much stuffing within all these religions, and everybody, there's so many different paths you have to get through, and there's just so much until you actually realize what is...
The Christian denominations and different schisms and sects there are actually, in some cases, even worse than a lot of the pagan religions, because they're falsely preaching to people that, we got the way and the light there and everything, but then they bog you down with all this Masonic or like pagan witchcraft or anything like that, Eastern mysticism like Zoroastrianism or anything like that they mix into it, and it's ridiculous.
And they get stuck up, like on the rapture and on the Trinity, things like that. It's just like why
you're willing to kill one another over.
Exactly. It's
like, do you think Christ would really want you to be killing one another over this? Even if you do disagree with somebody and this is like a huge issue to you, rather than killing this person or persecuting this person or whatever, just part ways, man. Just part ways.
Why argue over stuff that nobody can prove? I mean, this is all theoretical in most people's minds. I mean, you can't prove this or that. I mean, you have to have faith. It's all based upon faith, and you're not going to get a definite answer on certain things. That,
and even if you're right and you're wrong, that's going to be settled by God, not you.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think people miss the point, and they do get stuck up on things that don't matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether or not... Just almost anything you can think of there, man. There's certain stuff that people will working on the Sabbath versus not working on the Sabbath. There are certain back to basics Christian Reformation movements there that will persecute the crap out of anybody that works on the Sabbath there, because we're supposed to be like the old school Hebrews there and everything.
Are we talking Sabbath Saturday or Sunday?
Sabbath Saturday.
But we're not being held to the law of the Old Testament.
Yeah,
because it's the violent. Because if we were, we all have committed
fallen down a long time
violation.
Ago. Yeah, that's why there's people. It doesn't matter if you're circumcised or uncircumcised, baptized or unbaptized, any of this type of stuff. It's the confession of the living God that saves you, not any of this other stuff. Everything else there, it's part of Christianity, it's part of the trappings there and everything, but it's not the central. Whatever you'd say, the galactic center there, yeah.
Right, yeah, and it's so simple. It's believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved. That's it. I mean, that's truly it.
By confession alone there, because it's by
grace. There was one other law. It's do no harm or love your neighbor as yourself. Basically, do unto others as you'd have done unto you, and
which is the antithesis of do what thou wilt.
Right,
and that's
he
what
also says.
Is.
He also says, "Be at peace with all, if possible." You see, there's that if possible.
Insofar as possible.
Right. In other words, there's just some people that you can't talk to about Jesus. They will get ticked off, or you can't tell them about the New World Order, or I saw the Warren Report, Oswald killed Kennedy, and that's it, and that was settled a long time ago.
Those people are never going to be able to be reached. They're gone.
Like the parable of, you're spreading seeds. Some fall on the rocks and burn up. Some fall in fertile soil and produce tenfold, and
others hit
you can't worry about the ones that you
and
can't.
Then get choked out. Yeah, just the ways of the world there and everything.
Right,
there
you
are
don't plant a seed and then
path.
scream at it because it didn't sprout yet. You come back and check on it later, and maybe that person might come around or easier to talk to a couple months down the road after he's looked into some of what you talked about.
And a lot of it is stuff for later. People that are, you're just setting the stage for something later on down the road, and it might take a tragic event or some event that actually makes people think back to that conversation you had with them and go, wow, he was talking the truth.
Indeed. Well, Jason, you got any news here you want to bring up?
Well, CERN is, as of yesterday, CERN is full force. It is now 24 hours a day. And they are definitely spinning the little circle there. And what I found out about CERN just recently is the what they've been doing is there's been a ton of stuff, and we'll talk about this probably in the second hour, but a little bit about the plane wrecks. And there's been a lot of correlation with plane wrecks that have gone down in and around those areas. And I'm kind of looking at the story of the Bermuda Triangle, and some of the seismic and some of the magnetic waves that go off around these different areas. And CERN has a lot of the same principles. And I was taking a little talk with my kids and spinning it really fast and letting them hold it. And I said it was about 3 inches in my hand, and it was it's one of those little the ones that spin around. You can feel, you can hold it up. It kind of stays up as you're holding it and it's spinning real fast. Gyroscope. And so I was explaining to them, this is only 3 inches right here. Imagine a 17-mile circle that's spinning two of these things at two separate directions. Imagine what that's doing to the Earth. And you could see their fingers, and they were moving, when this thing was going around there. And it got me to thinking, I'm like, wow, this is a tremendous amount of power. And I believe we're nearing 13 or 14 teravolts, which we're talking like, it's just a tremendous. It's just more power than it's the power of God in our hands.
Yeah, if you were to translate it into an explosive force, it would be dozens, if not hundreds, of nuclear explosions. Like beyond Hiroshima is more like of what they have now of the yield of the average, whatever ICBM that they have now.
Yep, it's a tremendous amount, and they're continuing on, and so they're rolling power up more and more. And I kind of found it interesting that they did this on 4/4/4 because they did it 4 o'clock, April 4th at 4 o'clock. These guys they're freaks with numbers. They're crazy.
Also,
everything
the
means
blood moon was yesterday as well.
It was, and so you got to wonder why it had to be around these times. And this is about the same time that the poles of Saturn are lining as well. Mm-hmm. So whatever they were up to, I'm sure they succeeded because they're continuing on. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on, and that plane wreck. There's a lot of stuff also with that plane wreck that happened as well. People going crazy, and the spin that the media is putting out is a lot different than really what I think it is. And one fact that most people haven't touched on there were 3 high-profile people on that plane, 2 doctors, and then a potential whistleblower who was investigating a lot of stuff in the Alps. And she was on her way back, and it's just kind of funny timing. How all these planes just kind of drop out of nowhere and hit the ground, and it's it's a concern for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that the plane and everything, I like how your brain works there, Jason, because that CERN thing was definitely one of the things we were going to talk about today. I'd already put that up there because I don't know. I figure it ties in with everything as far as we have the shortest blood moon, observable blood moon in recorded history as far as I know, as far as the fact that it's literally, like a period of a couple hours there, maybe? Less than that?
Yep. And I believe it was a short, it was a short one. And, it's funny timing on this. They're playing some games here. We don't know what, and the fact of the matter is we have a 17-mile round ball of things that are just spinning as we speak, 24 hours of the day right now, and they've made sinkholes. I mean, they have in the past even talked about some of these little mini black holes that they're creating, and they believe they just go into the middle of the earth and they disappear. But at some point, you got to wonder,
how when Jesus energy or mass or whatever has been displaced by that as well too.
Right, yeah, and when you look at the potential on this, there were some other style of rumors that were going around, and this is unconfirmed, but they were talking about the mass amount of power that they have. Once this is demonstrated, they have this kind of power. This is kind of a ultimate weapon. This is something that you could go to any country across the world and say, look, I'm going to put a black hole right in the middle of your place. I'm going to destroy you. Come sign on with us. Take the mark, and you're all free. We'll protect you, and we'll do a 7-year pact. How's that? So, that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about, what potential, because they're not going to leave a weapon of this caliber, untouched. They're definitely going to wield it. And
if they haven't been using it for that purpose already.
Exactly. And it distorts stuff. Anytime you start messing around with the magnetic field, it is distorting stuff. I mean, it changes moods. It changes just things that in our lives that you probably will never, ever see. Moods, it changes, just like the
tides. As you're saying with moods there, your entire brain and nervous system is run on an electrochemical apparatus. It literally is electricity, tiny little electrical currents, and you start increasing amounts of background electricity or background radiation there and everything, and it creates little differences in that, and that can be extremely bad. It can take people from, as we were talking about before there, of using sound or using electrical frequencies to literally stimulate people and make them angry, make them docile, maybe whatever.
Well, that's one of the worst things that I've ever thought about with HAARP, and I don't want to jump the ship here, but I think this stuff all kind of laps together. I think we're seeing them put their final pieces into play. When I did a investigation upon HAARP, you're looking, and most people are like, HAARP, what is it? It's like they don't understand it, but I live in the frequency world. I live with an ISP that we're constantly messing around with internet that's wireless. We don't have wires, and so when we're dealing with RF, you learn spectrums. And so I investigated into HAARP a little bit, and the funny thing is they're running, and before I say that, the human brain runs at 8 to 14 hertz, very small frequency but very wide band.
Very important.
Very exactly. And we're not, we have power. Our brain is the most incredible device, that's ever been seen, that nobody even understands it. But
as much as people computers and stuff want to make it of just, we're so passe there. God has truly made an amazing apparatus in the human being, the human body.
Incredible. Definitely. So HAARP sits and runs at the same frequency as the human brain. And if that's for weather, you got to look at yourself and go, wow, that's very strange. Why would that be? And we're a human, we don't have as much signaling power compared to the enormous power of HAARP. And so when you're talking about scrambling people or messing them up or, just causing confusion or panic or depression, it is totally possible. In fact, when in my world, if we get interference from other places, it will knock your connection off. You just can't deal with interference. So if somebody aims one of these things at you, or HAARP turns it on and turns it up enough, I mean, you probably wouldn't even know what happened. You'd probably just sit there and drool until you died of hunger.
Or if they turned off the frequency, it'd be about that, of literally you'd come back and you would have however much lost time, or you'd sit there completely conscious of what's going on but unable to do anything. I don't know how it would work even.
Right, because your brain, the way it transfers, when I was reading up on this, the way it transfers throughout the brain, it uses these signalings to make it through the different sections of the brain. And so if you're unable to keep a thought, I mean, you might just be sitting there thinking of thoughts and thoughts and thoughts, but you can't formulate actions, you can't do anything other than you'd have little pieces of the brain working, but you can't connect them. And, to me, that's kind of scary.
Beyond kind of scary. That's really scary.
Just, I have no idea why they would even, we have the ultimate weapons already in evil hands, and, we kind of just let it go there. But, what is their intent? How does, 8 hertz affect the weather? How do they do that? And, they're always talking about it, changing the weather or doing stuff with earthquakes. And yeah, of course it does. We're screwing with the earth. We're technically screwing with the earth. And there are going to be after effects of it. When you're slamming that kind of power at 8 hertz into the Earth's core, you're going to hit these tectonic plates and you're going to freak them out. I think it's an after effect. I think the whole weather thing is the spin, but it's people see things happening, and but it's already their main intent was to do other things.
Well, I'd say the HAARP is kind of like. Or HAARP is a lot like the CERN thing, and that's a lot like the fracking and everything, where even if they try and spin it in a good way of, natural gas is good, or, we're going to fight climate change, or, we're going to try and discover the origins of the universe or whatever, they always use some, like, cool, positive spin on it. But in reality, what always happens is some really negative stuff where a lot of people die.
Right, and where we don't understand or have the full scope and probably never ever will see the full scope until all things are revealed, we don't know what they're doing. I mean, some of these things can be multifaceted fronts that they're doing. Who knows? I mean,
even some of their scientists have no idea what they're really doing because they're so compartmentalized that they just see one aspect of this.
Right. And people are, even the mainstream is starting to hear grumblings of possible portals and different things coming out of CERN, which I thought was kind of funny because that's the last thing I think that, people that are asleep would actually, grasp onto it. Technically, there is the possibilities of it. You've had guys like Stephen Hawking that come out and said, don't do this. Anyone who doesn't know who Stephen Hawking is, he's a brilliant guy, and look him up for sure. But I mean, he's like, don't do this. And these scientists, I mean, every scientist wants to push the edge. They want to get as far as they
but
can.
A lot of these guys, even like him there, or Neil deGrasse Tyson, don't have to be up on certain stuff that you or I might be up on, and they can be a bit more levels of the establishment, but they realize the dangers of creating artificial black holes, because who's to say when it's going to stop and when it will have filled itself or whatever. It won't become a vicious cycle vacuum that essentially just takes up everything, just eats everything.
Right. I mean, this black hole...
Playing with something that you don't know what the outcome is going to be
is dangerous, always.
Yeah, look at nuclear power and nuclear weapons, and how about that super collider, man? There's something that could crack the Earth open, huh?
Yeah.
Or spit
Have you ever heard of that?
Which one? That's CERN. That is CERN. That is Super Hadron Collider.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's what we're talking. Yeah, that is their name of this. This is the official 20-year name that they came out with, and it has a long acronym, evil meaning to it. But one of their things is they name all of these little projects inside CERN totally horrible things. I mean, there's one called Satan. There's a devil. There's one that's a devil. I mean, and these guys
the
are
least evil term that they use to describe anything is the looking glass of what they used to do at the observatory, and that has its own cult significance as well. But not even get into that.
Well, and that's the funniest thing is we are dealing with, their logo is 666 for all things. They have a thing, and they're called the Beast. So technically, they are allowing the Beast to rise, whether or not it's the right Beast or the
Isn't the supercomputers in New York or in D.C. the ones underground that are just like incredible monster, just data machines? Isn't that called the Beast? I believe that is called the Beast also.
I didn't know that, but CERN are the people that actually created the internet to begin with, and they've been surfing on something that was 1,000, even bigger, faster than the end users will ever see. They've had internet too for decades, and so we're surfing on the old school stuff, and they're surfing on the big school stuff. And what's interesting though is they've made a ginormous world cluster. The processing data that comes from CERN every 1 second is something like 1.6 gigabits of data. And so they have to process all this data. So I don't know if anyone remembers the SETI project from back in the day. It was essentially a little program you could run on your computer, and it was looking for extraterrestrial life, and it was using your computer to process stuff. But
yeah, they featured that in a Jodie Foster movie, Contact. That's how it starts. They were getting a signal from far away and figured out it was plans.
Though they're actually talking about that right now in the news. They're going over that of supposedly a signal that's come from space there and everything that some people are saying is supposed to be an alien being or whatever, and other people are saying it's just whatever certain frequency that just happens to randomly generate itself. I mean, after all, we are living in the age of people that believe that the universe created itself out of its own consciousness, because, I mean, the idea of a god or a creator or anything like that, that's so ridiculous. It just creates itself.
Yeah, take a look at the human body. I mean, that is the magnificence of God. That's why, evolution could be evolution, but, you just don't see us with a nose on the side of our legs. It's a perfect system.
Look at the anatomy of a fish or a shark or a dog.
Even so, something as small as an ant, or even down to the size of an amoeba or a bacteria or something like that, is still so infinitely complex.
Exactly, and it's unique. I mean, they're every single thing that he has created, including us, we're made to succeed. We're made to be strong. An ant, what can lift, like, I don't know, 30 times their weight or something. Everything that he created has a purpose, has a plan, including us, and that's a big reason why he had to send his son to be slaughtered, so that we didn't have to live in the darkness forever. I mean, we have a chance.
Because if it was up to us to save ourselves there, it would never happen.
Exactly.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people put it that way, but I don't see it, because a lot of other hosts that I've talked to, or people not on this network, but people that don't really get it. Well, why would God kill his only son? Okay, because he's called the Son as a man. But what Jesus, Yeshua, was the living Word. He was God. He didn't send his Son to die. He came and died.
Exactly. That's where I think physically incarnating part of himself there, and that's why it's really interesting to see a lot of with people of the fight back and forth between stuff, when in reality God, regardless of how you want to put it, cared enough about you individually.
Well, if you had children, wouldn't you die to save your kids?
Right. Yeah. I don't think anybody truly understands why exactly he set this up, why he did. And I think that's one of the first questions I do ask when I get up there is what happened? Is it something Satan did that caused? Was it just that piece? Did you not anticipate it?
Happen. Myself, and I had a conversation with a Marine a few years back. We were sipping some vodka late at night, and he said, what are you all worried about all this New World Order stuff for? He goes, it's going to be the way it's going to be, because God is in control, and everything that's ever happened went down the way it did, including the fall in the garden, so that we could know his love and forgiveness.
Right, yeah. No, those are things we'll never know. I mean, why didn't he create us in heaven? Why didn't he create us in a perfect environment?
This, right?
Yeah, first, all of it. It's as being somebody that at one point I worked as an author there for a bit, and trying to work with like fantasy and everything like that, and create an entire world, whatever, metaphorically in your imagination there, and work with all this type of stuff. And all these are questions that you actually have to ask yourself and everything, and you start realizing the complexity and the amazingness of God, and whether or not you believe in free will or not, because so much of this, even if you were to create something, that's one of the things of testing, and that's one of the things of having a grace there, essentially, and having whether or not you make the decision to turn towards Christ there and everything, is that it's a lot more complex than we understand, because God, I think, he knows what he wants us to do and what the plan is and everything, but it's up to us to actually turn in that direction and go that way. Because if it were up to our own strength, or of us trying to decide it ourselves here on everything, of you know what I mean, that do what that wilt type of thing, of you could do whatever, you could go jump into traffic, and if that's what you did, then that's what God wanted you to do. And I don't know with all this, man.
Right. No, I free will is one of the greatest, pieces of our entire makeup is the fact that we do have free will. We can make the decision. We can go be a serial killer if we want, or we can go and turn our lives into missionaries and saving things. And that's why a lot of us, we're here on the talk show.
That's what we're doing.
We're fishing. That's what our command was to
be. Robots. God could have created robots. He didn't want robots. He wanted people that you're going to love him, to have a real family. And all of this life, I believe, and the whole fall of mankind because it happened the way it did, that's how we know the bounds of his love. And we come to him willingly.
Yep.
You know, like if your kids did drugs and went out and you had a daughter who is, you know, not doing the right things and stuff, and, you know, or a son, and then they come back to you later when they're 30 and say, Dad, I should have listened to you. You were right. You were only looking out for me, and I messed up and messed things up, like the prodigal son, basically. That,
sure.
That, you know, that we know his love, we have free will, so we're not robots. But unfortunately, many people on this planet have chosen their free will to follow Lucifer and Satan and do evil, dark things and have no empathy.
And you don't even have to be the people. If you don't even have to be actively going out there and dressing up and doing the theatrics and like being an overt devil worshiper or whatever to be serving Satan. I mean, serving yourself in the end is serving Satan, and that's what that's his greatest tempter that he uses of that Crowleyan "do what thou wilt." And that's what, if you notice, all this stuff of the television, the culture, the radio, all this stuff is promoting this nice, soft culture where you can do anything that you want as long as it's right in your own eyes. Just do what you think is right. Not what is right, but what you think is right.
Well, that's Aleister Crowley right there. I mean, that is his MO. You know, he talks that is what they all like. And in fact, I think I've always had that thought of why would you choose Satan versus God knowingly? And it has to be because they enjoy the lifestyle. They like living and being around sin constantly. And honestly, for me, you know, that gets old. It really gets old after a while. And there's a lot more of a challenge to serving God and to trying to stay right and trying to do the right things.
Well, there are so many people that are don't want to have any expectations of themselves. So God forbid that the Lord has any expectations of them.
Exactly. Yep.
So then instead they get to pretend that there is no expectation, there is no anything to this, and that they can just simply do whatever there. But back to topic here on CERN and whatnot, Jason, are there any points you want to do finish up with that?
No, you know, it's kind of watching it day by day. We're seeing it. I've actually subscribed to a bunch of CERN stuff. We're going to be putting it on the Two Real News site here shortly. So they have a quite intricate journal that they put out there, which is kind of scary. But you know, they're very busy people over there. It's a very big place, and so going 24 hours a day. And I find it funny though. They continue to spin this stuff. It's not like they turn this on. They turn it on and they keep it on and they just keep it rolling. So there must be there's probably more to play than what we know, especially where why do they have to keep us on and when do they shut it down? I mean, that's the question: does this ever go off now?
Yeah. Well, and the amount of power and money that's going into this, I figure people should care, because this is the sort of thing that people want to whine about, how nobody's doing anything to end world hunger or to solve the problem of homelessness. And we'll think about how much money has been spent not only on warfare and militarism and everything, but on these asinine scientific endeavors that, while they might be cool pet projects for whoever, that you might be able to get people support by saying, oh, isn't this cool? Isn't this neat? Guess what? There are far more pressing issues in our immediate reality than going to space, than creating robotic, artificial life and enhancing, or artificial organs, or enhancing the length of people's lifetimes to try and live beyond that 120-year mark there or whatever. And it's just, give me a break, man. How about you improve the quality of life of the people that are here now while they're still here, as opposed to all this garbage that does really nothing? I mean, there's so many people even within our movement here that want to focus on, humanity's goal is to go to space. That's what God wants, to go to space, go to space. I could imagine that God has a goal so simple as literally of just love thy neighbor, of people being like, of calling themselves out to higher moral standards with stuff of ethics, with how they treat one another in their own lives and being fulfilled in their own lives, rather than going anywhere. Everybody keeps wanting to go somewhere else to find some other sort of a challenge, when the real challenge is within you.
Exactly. You're right. Yep. No, it is. It's that's amazing. You know, they have if they had a war on life instead of a war on drugs, I think we would have been a much better culture. You know, take the poisons out of our food, take the plastics out of our food, take just the stuff out of the skies, and just, you know, enjoy life. And that's the thing is these guys do not want us to enjoy and have prosperous. We shouldn't be better. It's
they
only
enjoy
them.
death. They enjoy killing.
Their idea of rather be a king in hell than a king or the servant in heaven. But that's a completely convoluted idea and twisted in the first place, which reveals a lot about their
it is
really sad.
Inherently destroyers following the master destroyer.
Yeah,
and they're deceived. It can't have a good ending. Not for them.
Well, they think they're going to change it, obviously, because if not, then they're confused and even more confused than we know they are.
Exactly. On other news here, some interesting story that people have been talking about a lot lately is that the shooting in Kenya there and everything at the university. One of the major problems here is, we've got this to bring up. The gunman in Kenyan massacre was government official's son. That's pretty interesting. But then also the angle of this, that the Kenyan police waited about 7 hours before deciding to start to confront the gunman at the college.
Well, yeah, you can't do it when daddy's their boss. I mean, you got to give him a chance to make it. So it's funny. It's really
got to give him a chance to kill a lot of people so it can make big news. If he only kills
and this is a disarmed population as well. And I think more than anything, it just illustrates what happens when guns are banned. I mean, when guns are outlawed, only the outlaws will have guns. I mean, as much as people want to say that's a hackneyed statement or it's stale, it still rings true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure they don't have Jade Helm going on, where people are skyrocketing into the airports and taking them over in 6 different cities. So
exactly.
I mean, I think it's all part of the plan, man. And so the more violence they have, like this guy, where his son. I mean, the longer they can make this, and they don't make anything. Anytime there's a tragedy, they love that. I mean, it's just they spin good and they spin bad, all for their
All for the purpose of greater evil and division.
Right, and
Rom said it best. Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste.
There you go.
Yeah, good old Rahm. I mean, working with Pete there.
How the hell did he ever get? Who gave him that name? And I mean, give me a break.
Oh,
I don't like him. That God with us.
Yeah,
Emmanuel
means
God with us.
Yeah, that's about as big of a lie as you could possibly ever have for your name there.
That guy is such a low
life.
Well,
then again,
right?
I'm sure there is a God with them, just not Big G God.
Yep, exactly. Lots of little G's.
Thunder.
Lots of.
But yeah, his daddy was an Israeli terrorist there back in the day, or actually before even the state of Israel, when it was supposed to be the British colonies in Palestine there and everything. He was one of the guys that was blowing up British and American troops there.
Yeah, I would imagine if you ever threatened Rahm Emanuel, he could have you whacked within 24 hours.
Oh, trust me, I'm more than aware, man. With Pete, working with Pete there and everything, he's been harassed quite a few times. I mean, recently there by the police outside O'Hare Airport there and everything for filming stuff, as far as like the different flags and the detention center and everything they have up there, their proxy FEMA camp that they're setting up, and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised at any point if something
I was
bad
in Walmart the other day, and I was like thinking, when this is all looted and all these shelves are empty, this is going to make one big holding center while they process people as to whether you're going to be exterminated or going to the camp or whatever.
Yeah,
think
and they
about
know
it.
full well
when those
that a lot of
stores,
these scenarios, when they're targeting places to blow up there and everything like that, as far as in a wartime scenario, they know for a fact that there are going to be people that congregate in large amounts in some of these stores of finding them a recognizable or safe shelter. They're going to find people that are in the parking garages.
What I was talking
like
about is they'll put guards at the front doors and at the back where the trucks come in, and instant FEMA camp. Get in there, shut your mouth,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be herding people into these Walmarts. I've heard people say that they can drop chain barbed wire in a roll, go around a school or around a parking lot, and they instantly got a holding facility, and they can erect those towers that go up on scissor jacks. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah, it's not exactly the most complex setup they have any of these people in, man. It's literally just an enclosed area with a fence and some barbed wire at the top, or razor wire, or electrified fence, or whatever it is you want to use to fit your particular taste there. But here's something of what they who knows? People in some of these FEMA camps there might be getting to eat FDA approves new GMO foods, apples and potatoes.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yep, just released right off of Monsanto Labs.
Yep, excellent. Yummy.
That's right.
I'm sure Michelle Obama will be feeding them to your kids here soon.
Oh, the kids probably got beta tested. They probably took this stuff and fed them to the kids to see how well they do, and they probably did right good.
It's amazing the way they
I don't
test
eat corn anymore. Do you guys?
For the most part, I try to avoid it as much as possible.
No, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, you just got to buy organic. You can't buy anything. Anything you see on TV, you cannot buy or trust. You just can't. I mean, look for Mrs. Mayer's. Look for the little, generic boxes or the things, and make sure it's organic.
We're lucky in Florida. There's a lot of roadside stands because we're in farm country where we're at. So there's a lot of people who sell produce locally.
And even if it's not organic, as long as it's not contaminated with so many pesticides or anything like that, then I don't know, farm fresh versus like an individual small-time farm, while you can do it as bad if you trust the mainstream and put all sorts of nasty poisons or malathion or God only knows what on your food there before you start eating it and selling it to people and everything, it tends to be a lot more nutritionally dense than the stuff that's grown on the mega farms, because these mega farms do nothing to replenish their soils whatsoever. So most of their stuff, other than the NPK of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus they're completely lacking in all other micronutrients, or what they call they don't call them micronutrients anymore. They call them, or what they used to call them, non-essential nutrients or non-essential minerals. Now they call them micronutrients because they're still important. They're just not as important.
Right, and if you take a look at something organic versus something that is not, I mean, the not organic stuff looks bigger, fresh. It just looks much better than the little scrawny organic stuff. But I don't think things were meant to be like 3 times the size and extra shiny. That's just
and the water content. So much of that the big conventionally grown stuff is just huge water content. And I mean, your body's made of a huge, vast majority percentage of water and everything, but there's no nutrition there.
Exactly. It's like eating a cardboard box. You might as well just be eating cardboard and call it good.
Oh, well, the farm raised lettuce of what you could grow as an individual versus what you get on the mega farms there at the grocery stores. So if you're getting it from the mega farms, is pretty much you may as well be eating cardboard or newspaper, because there is no nutrition in that whatsoever. It's water in leaf form.
Oh yeah, yep.
Water and pesticides, no less, in leaf form.
Don't eat the chicken either. My goodness, you'll get what do they have? All the antidepressants they dump in the dang chicken food that they've been proven that there's literally like antidepressant medicine the chickens are eating.
Speaking
and so
of antidepressants that the chickins are eating, study 70% of people on antidepressants don't have depression.
Well, yeah, you get in with the doctors. I mean, that's all of a sudden it goes from a cut on your leg to you having some crazy disease where you're popping pill after pill, and pretty soon you don't know what's going on when there's really nothing wrong but a little cut on your leg.
Yep. And every psychological condition you could possibly think of that they could make up at a moment's notice, everything from authoritarian defiance disorder to ADHD and ADD for your kids. Where I get to a certain degree because of all the food additives, because of all the synthetic sugars and just the sheer amount of sugars and stuff, and just because of the good old-fashioned restlessness of being a child. I mean, imagine some people remember being a kid there and not being able to concentrate on stuff that's boring to you. If something's interesting to you, it can hold your attention for however long you can sit there, man. But when something's not interesting to you, you're not going to learn it. And so much of this, they'll be like, oh, you're not learning from our nice Gestapo-style or Nazi-style propaganda we have going here in Indoctrination Center, so thus we're going to feed you a bunch of pills that make you a zombie and then put you in a chair and then force you to listen to it.
Yep. Yeah, it is insanity what they're doing to these young kids with this stuff. I mean, it is crazy. One of the kids that I teach school on a day-to-day basis as well. He had been flunked out of the public school. He had been held back twice, and he was only in like 2nd grade. He should have been in 3rd by now. And I pulled him in because they had recommended some kind of something that sounded very speedy and to him, and they said he had learning disabilities. So I've worked with this kid now for about 2 months, and this is after 3 years of being screwed by the school system. And this kid, I kid you not, he is very brilliant. I mean, he couldn't even read. He couldn't even do 1 + 1. And literally, he is now one of the best kids I got. It is incredible. And, we haven't been feeding him this normal yellow 5s and all this crap that they eat out there, but they say there's a detox period. They say, don't just stop eating your poisons because it's like a heroin addict. You're used to having yellow 5s, red 40s and this stuff in your body.
You got to sweat it out, and quite literally you can have anything from a psychological mood swings and stuff to like hallucinations and stuff. And while some people might think that's ridiculous, your heart murmur, you can have all sorts of stuff where you almost die, in some cases can pretty much get there. It's literally like having being a heroin addict or a meth addict there, of your body's physically craving this poison after it's gone.
It's in everything. M&Ms. I mean, even M&Ms. You're sitting there eating yellow M&Ms, and I'm just like, oh my gosh! Every yellow M&M, you're getting dumber. And
and the greens and the reds and everything like that, because all artificial food colorings themselves are contain aluminum by them. The aluminum lake and aluminum, aluminum lake so and so, or aluminum lake red or blue or green or whatever. All this stuff. Not only are most of them, what do they call coal tar dye synthetics that they get there of azo or azo dyes, but a lot of them are carcinogens and neurotoxins.
Well, yeah, and everybody that's drinking aspartame, I mean, essentially that's a man-made E. coli substance. That it's crap. Seriously, it is crap. The man-made substance poops out sugar, and so somebody at some point decided to eat the crap of a man-made bug and said it tasted sweet. So everybody that's drinking Diet Coke that has aspartame, that is poop. It might taste pretty sweet, but
aspartame is an obesogen as well, and all these chemicals that we have in these so-called diet products are obesogens.
Well, that's the funny thing, is they make you fat, and then they give you this deathly poison and diet pills and diet everything. They push that on you. It's just killing us more. When there's really, we just need to stop eating the horrible food that we eat.
Yeah, and I mean, even people have just, when you're eating let's say you have two people there, they've done the experiments before of having somebody eat the same garbage McDonald's diet there and drink the regular Pepsi or Coke or whatever, and then drink the same thing and then drink the diet. And I mean, it makes that big of a difference. Just even with high fructose corn syrup, all the same garbage that you're getting in the other stuff, just the difference between synthetic sugar and real sugar is staggering.
Yeah, there was a movie about that.
Super Size Me. Yeah, everybody should watch that. I mean, that is a awesome documentary. The guy, for anybody that hasn't,
you feel legitimate.
It is horrible
for this guy by the time it's over. And I mean, he's done other documentaries where he's not quite. You know what I mean? I'm not quite with him on that. But that particular one, more than anything, I mean, awesome. He walked the walk and talked the talk.
Well, exactly. And I mean, he was blowing chunks on day 2 or 3. I mean, he was sick from eating McDonald's.
Yeah, because that's all he was eating, right? And then there's another one, I believe, or is that the second half of it, where the guy goes on a total juicing diet for 30 days or something?
Yeah, that's not this one. This one is almost dead.
Movie,
get off or dies.
This guy was like huge, right? And he went on a total juicing diet where he was juicing stuff, good vegetables, and drinking 2 glasses of this juice every day. And this guy trimmed right down to a low weight. The guy was like 300 something pounds, and trimmed down like 175 from juicing.
Yeah,
the irony of
it. And he said he feels energy all the time.
He's doing a movie there with InfoWars and those guys helping sponsor him. Called, was it Losing Leather, Saving Face? He used to be the not the original Leatherface wrestler, but 80s and 90s there. He ballooned up to about like 410 pounds, something like that, and has actually lost quite a bit of weight already doing that. And they're making an entire movie out of it, of just the juicing diet, of eating healthy, not eating garbage anymore, and taking supplements like the iodine supplements, stuff like that.
Right, yeah, and don't let, for anybody that thinks they should be eating Subway, don't eat Subway. I mean, it's full of bad foods anyway. So, I mean, you see the big fat guy that goes down to like nothing, and, they're pumping that as safe.
Even the idea there that you could just eat Subway once, and that would even work. You know what I mean? Even or that eating sandwiches in general, just sandwiches upon sandwiches, would somehow make you thin when you're eating a ridiculous amount of empty carbs.
Yep. And once you're eating the poison food, here, this is from I'm a big guy, I'm a fat guy, right? So I've been a lifer on this. I've always been dieting. I'm the dieter, and it was until I got to the organic stuff where I didn't end up with the hunger pangs. Everyone knows where you're craving a hamburger or pizza or something of that sort. I don't have that anymore. I get sick if I look at food on TV. I honestly do. It's been forever months since I've ever eaten out. We can't even think about eating out, just because there's nothing really safe. And people go on these diets and they really feel hungry. And trust me, that you feel hungry. You want to eat everything you can. But it's whatever's in these foods, the poisons, that you never quite get satisfied. It's probably because of the nutrients. Probably the same reason that dogs go and eat dog poop is because they don't have enough nutrients in what they're eating.
The same reason they eat dirt. People will always yell at their dogs for eating dirt there on the ground or anything like that.
They're trying to balance something in their system.
Yeah, maybe, well, a lot of primitive peoples there, and even all the way into the modern day, there are people that have reverted that we'll call, they're so ridiculous. In the American South, a lot of poor people that will take to eating clay. And it actually helps with a lot of stuff there because it's nutritionally dense.
Bentonite clay has miraculous qualities to it. Bentonite
just
clay.
Of receiving not only that, but of just the amount of micronutrients of what you're talking about there, of little tiny amounts of something like sulfur, little tiny amounts of anything like that. There's manganese.
Yeah, Tina's got a guest she's going to be bringing on to talk about that stuff, who's really into it. If your other guest doesn't clear, I don't know if he's on. We're coming up on the top of the hour, but I sent a request to him, and he hasn't cleared it yet. Is he on your Skype?
He added me, but he's still not. It says he's not online yet, so I don't know if he does show up there or whatever. I mean,
if not, we'll bring Tina in, and you can talk more about.
We got a lot of news to cover here.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Yep.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, one last little thing on this whole diet.
Jason, one thing I would like to suggest.
Yes, sir.
I heard of a diet where if you get a lot of stuff like celery sticks and cauliflower that you could dip like in ranch dressing or broccoli raw and
Hamamoto just came on.
There you go.
Okay, awesome.
And if he's got to clear me. Tell him to type to clear me because I sent him a request. But what I was going to say is the diet that I'm talking about is you snack all the time, eat all the time to get your furnace burning, build your metabolism.
Yeah. So
have you heard of that? Have you ever tried it?
I've tried every diet under the sun. I've been on the Dr. Atkins. I've lived Weight Watchers. I mean, my mom had me on every diet there was possible. I mean, I'm the classic American.
Well, it's probably a glandular problem then, maybe.
I don't think so. I think it's a hand-to-mouth problem is the problem. So since I've been doing organic stuff, it's honestly, I haven't had to diet. And people are always like, well, you diet is just a bad word. And you don't need to diet. You just got to cut out poison. I mean, that is essentially it. And people are like, well, I got to eat better. It's not just eating better. It's like getting rid of the processed food, getting rid of the stuff you put in the microwave. Stop microwaving stuff
healthier
together.
Not eating anything than you would be eating poison.
Anything that comes out of the microwave isn't even real food at that point. It's not. I doubt you get any kind of substance whatsoever. But so a microwave is essentially a high-power 2.4 gigahertz antenna for anyone that's techie. But essentially, it's a very high-powered microwave. And I've tested in the kitchen before on lots of kitchens, and it's kind of dangerous. It is actually pushing out a lot more than what people think. So actually standing near your microwave when you're running it probably isn't a good idea, let alone eating the food that comes out of it, because it's changed. The molecules in it have changed. The DNA structure of whatever is in there has changed. It's
when it's
different.
changed to the point that plants can't absorb it through their roots. If you microwave water and then put it on them, they'll die. And then if you offer it to animals, specifically insects in there, they won't. A lot of insects won't drink it. They know there's something inside them that just senses it that they're not going to drink it. Some animals will, and then get violently ill too. And as you said, in some cases, can die.
Well, yeah, it's not nutrients, and you think that's a meal, but you get done with it, and you just want something else. But you're full, you're stuffed with this crap, and then you're hungry, you're just starving. It's a non, people out there that are fat. I'm with you guys. I got your backs, and there is hope. You just got to really, truly make the life change, and it's hard. It is truly hard moving to organics, but it's possible. We did it. So.
Good. Yeah, Darrell is online, and I told him to clear you and everything.
Okay, yeah, he cleared me. You want to go to break now, and we'll drag him?
Yes, sir.
All righty. You're listening to Two Real News. Seth Davis and Jason Boss on the Shake and Wake Radio Network. And now, back to Two Real News with Seth Davis and Jason Boss.
Welcome back to Two Real News. Joining us is special guest here, Professor Darrell Hamamoto. How you doing there, Darrell?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
You've appeared on quite a few famous broadcasts there, shows everything, InfoWars to television and all that, and everything in between.
Yes, in addition to my regular classroom duties at the University of California, Davis.
Indeed. How's that been lately? I know things have been going quite crazy there in terms of the liberal trendies running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yes, I hope we can get into some specifics about that. Oddly, I have a better reception from the broader public outside of the University of California. But that's beginning to change very quickly because the young people of all different groups, whatever persuasions, are beginning to realize that they're being sold a bill of goods at the esteemed University of California, and they're coming to me for at least some sort of insights that I can offer.
Oh, good. I'd say that's really important there, and it's actually kind of shown how the echo chamber that it's almost become of this idea that no matter where you're going, it's the same flawed logic that they're trying to indoctrinate the youth with. But I don't know. People are coming out of college with degrees in worthlessness, and I feel that it's college professors like yourself that are so important to actually give people an education that's just beyond the piece of paper itself. That's something that they can appreciably use within their lifetime.
I'd agree with you. I think we've been lazy for the past 15, 20 years, and there were some trends within academia that were not very productive, including so-called theory with a capital T, that infected the humanities and the social sciences. And I haven't really done any forensics on it, but I would suspect that probably the foundations had a lot to do with diverting us from dealing with history and politics and realities at the grassroots level instead of giving us all this sort of diversionary type of pseudo-intellectual activity, which has rendered a lot of, at least one generation, maybe more intellectually ill-equipped to handle new world order realities.
Yeah, well, even something so simple as everyday life realities. There, I would say they've been shortchanged for. They've definitely gotten the short end of the stick on a lot of this. The fact that they aren't prepared for real life, much less prepared for anything that goes beyond their immediate careers. I mean, I'd suggest a lot of their careers themselves they're essentially set up for what's a good one? Their Bachelor's of Arts degree that's going to go really nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, they are motivated by entrepreneurial zeal and understand that the government is going to do nothing for them so far as helping them, and that their various participation in identity politics is it's a dead end. And more than that, it's a dead end. It's been engineered to trap them.
We didn't build our companies, right? I mean, didn't I just hear that the other day that we surely didn't build the companies that we did build? Hi, by the way.
Oh, hi. Are you alluding to Barry Soetoro or his speechwriters?
Yeah, yes.
Of course. We have to do obeisance to the government. By the way, when I say government, I'm going to start using the term government.
No joke.
To me,
say it down here.
The institutional government, not the government of the people, which is true government. So I'll call them the Obama and the people government.
Yeah, well, that's really what
it
they
means
are.
Mind control, doesn't it?
Yeah,
government means mind control, doesn't it?
It is.
Right.
And the public university is culpable, but that's rapidly changing because human beings, particularly young ones of 18 to 22 years old, are fairly resilient, and they haven't really put down deep stakes into the system. So once you lay it out for them, they're pretty receptive to it. Right now, I'm overcoming a systematic draining of my classes by some of my colleagues who were threatened by the messages getting out. So programs like this, appearances and conversations that we're having right now, have been really, really instrumental in me running the blockade of ideas that my so-called colleagues have imposed on me.
Oh, indeed, and this idea that they're a part of the club, that somehow by trying to push you down there or whatever, or take you down a peg, that suddenly they're going to rise up a rung on this intellectual ladder there, when in reality they're destroying the rungs above themselves that would allow them to actually rise out of their zombie-like state.
And they're also sawing the rungs out of their own feet, and I think they're beginning to realize that. For example, in trying to drain my class, I used to be the most popular professor in my department, and probably this unit of mine. I had routinely introductory courses of 200 students, and now I'm getting courses canceled thanks to some sleazy individuals that they've hired on the staff and using social media in order to defame me and libel me and slander me. That's beginning to change, as I've said. But yeah, they've just hurt themselves, and it's amazing. They think they're going to get over on the basis of being part of this mob, this group, and they're going to hurt themselves. Ultimately, it's already beginning to happen. That's the good news.
Oh, yeah. I'd say these big government people seem to just love hurling out buzzwords like racist or homophobe or whatever, fascist, or you're closed-minded, or you're just anything, zealot, anything. They can throw out any of a number of buzzwords that most of these people don't even really understand what they mean.
No, they
much less being able to use it when they themselves are a part of what has become the cult of the state.
It's the cult of the state with a capital S. It's a cult of big government. It's the cult and the culture of victimage. It's a culture of grievance. And some of them are, they might be rooted in historical realities. But what happened is that the government, the state with a capital S, the university, which is an arm of the state, has taken these resentments, these hurts, and flipped them back and used them as means of pacification.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The victim culture is, I got an article out of Breitbart.com here of Gabby Giffords on gun control group, or to gun control group, fight terrorism with gun control. And I mean, if that doesn't show the victim mentality here, nothing does.
And of course, in that situation, and I won't speculate here, but there's some question as to what really went on in that assassination attempt.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I mean, was there some question on who was the trigger person?
No, on this it was just talking about just in general of terrorism there or whatever. I think she's trying to allude to the Kenyan situation there at the college in Kenya there of the police. In this case, as we discussed earlier on the show here, waited about 7 hours before confronting these gunmen. And if this is, of course, a victim disarmament zone, as I believe all of Kenya is.
An incredible story, and not coincidentally, the victims were Christian and they were targeted as such. And this is also something that's not really publicized in the corporate media.
Oh, indeed, because they can't try and spin it to their advantage somehow. But I'm sure if it were the opposite there or whatever, if it was a Christian extremist or whatever individual killing people, that would be plastered all over the news. Mm-hmm. Or a right-winger or something like that. They could be, right-wing extremists. I mean, I think it's so ridiculous how you can have all these people of the shooters and everything, one after the other, are either socialists, big Obama fans, communists, whatever you want to come up with. They're big old left-wingers, and yet they never report those facts. They never report any of that. It's always just they try and inject any lie they possibly can to fit their political agenda.
That's true, and of course there'll be no discussion of the systematic targeting of Christian communities by these so-called synthetic terror groups. Who claim to be, Muslim. And of course, I'm talking to people who are well educated and versed on these issues. They're creations of the intelligence agencies, correct?
They're on our payroll, yes.
I'd say the best way I did an article on Yemen and the entire situation there right now, and the lead up to it, the prelude to it, everything like that of contributing factors. And nowhere can I think is it more apparent of who really runs the Islamic State or Al-Qaeda or anything like that than when you look at their enemies list, of the fact that their enemies coincide with all the enemies of the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Britain, anybody in the area of it, be it the Hamas or the Palestinian Authority in Palestine. They're enemies with the Iranian government. They're enemies of the original Iraqi government. They're enemies of the Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen. Anybody you can think of, the Assad government in Syria.
Wow, what a great coincidence.
Indeed.
The only people that can't seem to make any sort of connections are my colleagues In fact, in academia in general, I don't know about all campuses, but certainly UC Davis, there are people, my colleagues, who are trying to exploit the situation in order to get through an agenda that's pro-Islamic and pro-victimage of the entire world of Islam, to hire people, to get resources, and to create general chaos between different factions.
Well, the true irony is that these same professors and everything would have supported right after the 9/11, the U.S.-led invasion there into Iraq and everything, killing many of these people, be they Muslim, Christian, whatever, and yet at the same time want to talk about, the victimization in American culture. It's the evil people there when you're supporting the president who is Mr. Drone himself.
Mr. Drone, but he's a dark-skinned promoter of drones and genocide, so they have to give him a pass because
even in
they really fear being smeared.
If you had a white guy doing the same thing there, he would be the most bigoted, evil, horrible racist you could possibly imagine.
Kid of Star already got him. Yep.
Well, when people tell me, you just don't like him because he's black, I always have to say, he's black?
Yeah.
Could have fooled me.
Well, yeah, I claim him, unfortunately, as an Asian Pacific person. He grew up in Hawaii. He grew up with Asian kids and Native Hawaiian people.
Yeah, educated in Indonesia?
Partly, yeah. Apparently, he spent some time in a madrasa, and he speaks fairly fluent Arabic that he learned there. But he did not grow up in the hood in Chi-Town, that's for sure. That's Billy
most
Boy.
Definitely.
Yeah, Billy Boy.
I still don't get why people think he's still a Christian or even ask if he's a Christian. This is the guy that would not swear on a Bible when he was, previous to the presidency. So is that something a Christian would do? I mean, a Christian would have no problem swearing on the Bible, as where a Muslim is going to have an issue.
Yeah, do you recall that they had that little slip-up where he couldn't get the words together? This guy who's so facile and slick-tongued, and they had to do the whole swearing-in process in private.
Yep.
That was done on purpose, in my opinion. I'm Rick, one of the producers of Shake and Wake with Rick and Annie. We founded the network with other hosts. I think they did that on purpose, and they didn't use a Christian Bible when they redid it the next day, supposedly. Come on, like the Supreme Court Justice there, the Chief Justice doesn't know the oath, and he doesn't either. They flubbed it on purpose so they could redo it.
Well,
they
the same way that he
used
didn't have a birth
LaVey's Satanic Bible or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Well, I think that was a purpose taunt to the American people.
Or psychological crap.
Yeah, well, and if you notice, he always says the Bible, not the Holy Bible, but whenever he says the Quran, it's always the Holy Quran says.
Right.
And of course, if you notice, in some cases, his Arabic is absolutely flawless.
That's what native speakers say, yeah.
Yep.
And he loves dissing the Bible. He loves breaking that down, New Testament, Old Testament.
Jesus is the Sermon on the Mount is the most radical speech in history.
Man.
And I didn't hear him. Maybe I missed it because I don't watch Fox or whatever. I didn't hear him say much about Easter Sunday either.
Yeah, he was one of the ones I've seen him pretty quiet there. The White House Easter, what do they have, the Easter breakfast there and everything like that, their prayer breakfast and whatnot. I've noticed he's been very downplayed at that, whereas a lot of presidents before him, including even George W. Bush, would try and play that up.
Right. Don't they usually have an Easter egg hunt for the children?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, of course, now I'm sure those children would be potential terrorists, and thus they can't have it. So.
Probably on the slaughter table. They're probably gone.
Well, with any of this, who knows? They probably, even if they were to have it, they'd have to have snipers up on the roof, having the kids trained with scopes on them there and everything.
They can depend on the Secret Service, the drunk Secret Service, not to...
the drunk whoremongering Secret Service.
Secret Service who crash into the gates and are engaged in all sorts of nefarious activity.
Yeah, and fish rots from the head down, so, I mean, really think about it. If they're doing that, what's Barry and Michelle up to?
Yeah, he's on the down low. That's what I hear. That's what the word is. It's not just on YouTube either. It's pretty much of an open secret. But I don't know. I guess that's part of the achievement of the equality revolution. All lifestyles
great
are
because
equal.
They take away any real equality or any real thing of rights there and they use you as political grist. Because, I mean, in reality, I've covered this extensively on the show as well there, of like the LGBTQ or whatever agenda that they've got going on, is where in reality they could give a damn about the average gay person out there, other than that they're using you as a political pawn. A great example of this would be the same news outlets that are trying to get you to rail against everything going on in Indiana right now, supposedly the worst bigotry you could imagine, are supporting in the same broadcast the Saudi-led coalition, I believe 8 member states of which all practice Sharia law and behead homosexuals.
Exactly. You're referring to the pizza parlor?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if any of that, I mean, my goodness, they've done the stuff of in Arkansas. They thought of passing a law, and it's so discriminatory. When in reality, this stuff was passed originally by Ted Kennedy and Bill Clinton in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, the younger people, at least the ones I'm running into and teaching and in class, they're not buying it anymore. It's too simplistic, and they have fatigue in this area, GLBTQ fatigue. You know, just like compassion fatigue. Yeah, they've heard it all before. They're just going their own way with that nonsense.
Yeah. Well, you're looking at a part of that younger generation there. Darrell is 22, my age.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And I think they're beginning to see that they've been sold a bill of goods and a distraction from the harsh economic realities. They're going to have a difficult time after they get outside of the nest of the university that diverts them with fancy recreational facilities and a lot of Prozac and psychotherapy free. You know, I mean, we have a psychotherapist on our faculty offices right on the floor, so they can just walk from my office right into a counselor, so they can be prescribed some sort of SSRIs. And I've been in a campaign on that for years. I'm just dreading some sort of outbreak of violence that's waiting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure if one of them snaps, then the university will be all too happy to play that up of reason. Well, we need to further restrict gun rights there and everything. If nobody had access to guns, then it wouldn't happen.
Well, they've been ignoring me in specific, and I'm going to release all the information and all the private memoranda to the public if something like this happens, so that all the people in responsible positions at UC Davis will be held accountable. Their names are going to be made public if something goes down, including the person who used to run my department, who's the head of a so-called Asian American mental health research unit that's funded by the National Institute of Mental Health to the tune of $1.5 million per year in order to label and stigmatize perfectly healthy young people, to get them on Prozac, and to also start a paper trail of mental health, quote-unquote, paper trail for the Obamacare people that will follow them through their entire careers.
Well, from any sort of thing you can think of the pills they're going to prescribe you, force down your throat, to your vaccination records or whatever, they're going to... any access that they can think that you'd have to a firearm or anything like that, they'll be able to repeal that because you're on, what does Alex Jones call them, the suicide mass murder pills. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
70% of people on meds right now was the last research. 70% take some kind of pill is what I was.
It was that 70% of the people on antidepressants aren't actually depressed.
Oh, yeah, well, this is a totally different one. This is the one I was doing the research on, another article I was writing, and it definitely is talking. 5 years ago, it was like 3 out of 10, and now it's like 7 out of 10. So.
The campaign to put people on these meds has been very, very successful. It's been deadly successful, and there's already some backlash on this. I teach a course in human sexuality, and that's one of the big topics of that. I had my department chair come into one of my courses to monitor me. I think his father is a psychiatrist. I think his wife is father is a psychiatrist as well. So they're very much invested in the medical model. And he wrote a sharp memo saying that I shouldn't be talking about these issues. And I said, stick it where the sun don't shine. This is the truth. This is not me saying. This is the Harvard School of Public Health. You name it. In any number of reputable medical schools themselves, as well as medical doctors, including Dr. Peter Bregan, he's one of the pioneers in this area, have come out publicly and said this stuff is really, really a public menace. Yeah. So students are getting the word.
Yeah, it's not like any of this is a secret either. They've come out with stuff long ago saying they want to kill us, and we're being herded towards these cattle prods with these drugs. We're getting stupider. I think there's an actual age limit where people can't wake up. And I've never been able to wake somebody up over a certain age. Is that true? I mean, what we're seeing with you and these people, and maybe they can't wake up. Maybe they're just stuck, and it just seems too surreal for them.
Well, from what I've observed, it's less a matter of age as a matter, as you alluded to earlier, the fact that these people think they're going to get some sort of payoff at the end if they just stick to the script. And the script is get all the students, get all the women in particular, by the way, this is a feminist issue, a true feminist issue, get them all on meds so they won't know what's going on. They can't figure anything else, and they're highly suggestible and controllable. So it's really, they're invested, and they're going to benefit from this.
Yeah, well, it's been
their
societal
own kids
engineering
are
from
grow
the
up.
beginning.
Pardon me?
It's been societal engineering from the beginning with a lot of this. We're literally talking decades, if not over a century, of the education system, or more importantly, the indoctrination system in the United States public school system.
Well, you're just talking the big pharma there as well. I mean, with all the other stuff in our foods, we're getting double dosed. We're getting like 150%. I mean, there's not one of us that's not on drugs, technically.
It's chemical and drug warfare against the American population, the global population, that's for sure. I mean, I filter my water, but I'm still getting the fluoride and some of the toxins just by walking outside or
the grapes you
shower.
eat or anything like that, because all of it accumulates within the plants themselves.
Mm-hmm. But I also read an article. I kind of scanned it, but it said that there's such a huge demand for organic foods now that they can't keep up with the supply. So look how quickly the situation is turning around. But we have to keep up the pressure and keep up the information flow here. You guys are doing a great job in executing that process.
Oh, thank you. I think you are as well there. One thing that I'd like to bring up that's kind of interesting is how the so-called movement of tolerance tolerates everyone except people they claim to be intolerant, and that also this idea of these so-called pseudo-intellectuals there or so-called scientists apply scientific method and principles to everything other than something they personally disagree with because it conflicts with their programming, their indoctrination.
I've been keeping an informal folder of just general news articles just on my campus alone that deal with research and medical and scientific fraud, just at UC Davis. It's incredible. These are not one-offs. It's systemic. It's built into the entire funding operation, and the payoffs really is what they amount to. There is some worthwhile research, but I'd say about 90% of it's bogus and definitely suspect.
Yeah, either for a political agenda or people trying to get money to be able to grease palms the entire way there. I mean, in some cases, it's multitasking. They're doing all of it at the same time.
So it all comes down, and of course they transmit that ethos to the undergraduates and the graduate students, and it's a really difficult task.
To try
to
beat any amount of critical thinking and individualism out of them, and to just push that herd mentality.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm pushing is that there's going to be alternative medicine and alternative treatments and therapies, which is going to be the huge area of growth for the economy, what is called the truth economy. And instead of going along with the program, start now as an undergraduate networking and developing systems that people are clamoring for already. We've talked about the organics, but they're also going to be demanding alternatives to conventional dentistry and medical treatment and even therapy.
Do farming as well. Yeah, these guys that want to grow this stuff inside. People want indoor stuff and outdoor. It will boom. And you're right. That's brilliant. Excellent.
And it's also going to require
Square Foot Gardens. The
Pardon
company Square Foot Gardens, and the guy who does the video, Back to Eden Gardening. Incredible stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Mulch and stuff. And, the faith thing, he says he come about covering the topsoil with mulch or leaves or stuff from the woods, because he was out there walking in the woods one day and said, he looked around and nobody needs to tell the trees and everything out in the woods and berries to grow. And he bent down and squatted down. He said, what am I doing wrong? I'm from generations of farmers tilling the soil. And he picks up the earth that's on the ground, and it's all rotted leaves and twigs and stuff. And it hit him like a ton of rocks. He said, God said to stop putting this on top of your garden. And it keeps the moisture. When it rains, it'll take days before the moisture comes out of that mulch or top stuff that you use like that. And then it also protects it from the heat so it doesn't get dried out.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of... Go ahead.
Going back to the economy and what you were saying, the benefits of this, and teaching those kind of courses. Those are such great ideas. That's the kind of stuff, and this entire conversation are things that I don't understand why those people that are that are persecuting you. It's either you're just unwilling to go look, because when you talk about finances and you talk about the financial, just training the kids that go in there, and that's been my biggest gripe about colleges forever, is that I used to work for Google, and so I spent a lot of time interviewing people, and so you don't get interviewed at Google unless you have a big background. You've been in college, and I'm one of the few people that I was the entrepreneur guy that just went out and busted bricks and whatnot. But I didn't find very many of them I really liked. I would actually take orchard workers over guys with huge PhDs and different kind of things, because they just didn't have real world skills, and everything they were being taught was so old and outdated. It just it wasn't reality with what it was. They've been taught old technology, they've been taught old stuff, and the guys that are in the real world, that's where it's I see that difference. But back to you on that, on the changes it's made and whatnot, and things that we can do to roll with it.
Well, there's a pretty large stratum, significantly large stratum of young people who are just bored with the even computer science curriculum. I was watching this documentary. I think it's open source. It's available on YouTube. It's called The Internet's Own Boy. It's a story about Aaron Swartz. Remember Aaron Swartz, the martyr to open source and IT? He got he was admitted to Stanford, which is one of the top IT institutions, and I think he dropped out after a year. It was too slow for him. It was too boring.
Yep.
So even I think he's definitely one of the least sung heroes of this movement and everything, especially with the internet. Of how much
Gary Webb, right?
Yeah, exactly.
His name and his memory need to be kept alive. That documentary is excellent.
He's a legend in the world I live in the deep dark tech. Everyone loves it. So
absolutely, his name should be known amongst the general public. So and he's not alone. There are a number, and I run into some of them even at my own institution, who are like 19-year-old whiz kids. And so if we could just provide them the larger historical and the social and the cultural bits of information about the New World Order and eugenics, and about this whole history of Big Pharma and the provenance of that, its relation to authoritarian, totalitarian governments. You take that and you combine it with their skill in this highly specialized area, and you have an incredible formula for transformation. And that's one of the reasons why I think Aaron Swartz was suicided, because he was giving inspiration to people of his generation with the similar high-level skills.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very threatening.
Tragedy. Very tragic.
Well, that's why I think the Gary Webb parallel is very appropriate.
Mm-hmm. By the way, did you gentlemen see that movie with
Cracking the System?
No, with Gary Webb, the fictionalized one.
What was that? Kill the Messenger.
Kill the Messenger. It was. I read the Nick Shaw book, and then I saw the film itself. I just was interested in your reaction to the film version. I haven't seen the film, but I've been writing even now extensively on the actual events and everything, which themselves, I'm sure Hollywood had to make a little bit of a compromise. I'd imagine not as much now, because it was kind of put out with the purpose of pushing the envelope there. But like anything, they don't want to go full bore with it. Yeah, I was disappointed in the film. I mean, it was brave that it was made and all that, but I think it falls into the category of a limited hangout. I mean, it's like the issue is much more deep, and I think the Nick Shaw book, of course, it's the book, right, goes a little bit deeper, and even then, he kind of pulls back a little bit. And
Gary Webb himself was one of the only people with any fortitude or balls about any of this. As so many people were trying to gainsay part of what he's saying is right, but it's not quite that bad, or it's he's embellishing a little bit or anything like this. But he's dead on accurate.
He was dead on accurate.
That was willing to stand up and say it from day one, not giving a damn whether or not they think he's crazy or a liar or anything.
And even one of the new L.A. Times reporters, quote unquote, more recently confessed that he gave Gary Webb a raw deal in doing this sort of counter investigation on Gary Webb's research. He confessed.
Several people come out.
It was a setup. It's a setup.
Yeah, it's all been known. Yeah, he got screwed, and 2 shots to the back of the head. Somebody's still out there for murder. Probably a few people. Probably a whole handful of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at Michael Hastings, another great example of a reporter that does his job, and they kill him for it.
Mm-hmm. The true reporters, the true writers, the true investigators, the journalists, they're in dire danger. There's a guy, Philip Marshall, was it, who was the airline pilot who had been writing, and I think much of his family was murdered as well. He must have been onto something. A lot of this,
I think that's what's so important about us, our own form of open sourcing this information of where, if you notice the system, everything's about a compartmentalization and putting information in only certain specified people's hands there and everything, and dividing everyone into as small groups as possible. Where with us here, it's about getting everybody into as large groups as possible and to putting as much information into the hands of as many people as physically possible, and to have as many leaders within a movement there as opposed to centralizing control.
Yes, decentralization and flatten out the hierarchy, right, of knowledge. And,
exactly, because then it allows competition to come in, and true competition is where profit is, where success is, where actual wealth is created.
Mm-hmm. That'll help reintroduce the whole meritocratic system that American economic success and health and vitality stems from, instead of this monopoly and oligopoly and these closed systems that have been created to benefit insiders only.
Yeah, well, and to back you up there, Darrell, as you've talked about probably and seen quite a bit there before, of this idea of destroying competition, of destroying people's children's especially idea of competition by destroying the actual competition itself, of giving somebody an award for doing well. Instead, we give everyone an award just for participating.
Right. I think it started in those soccer leagues a couple of decades ago, where everybody got to play, even if you suck as an athlete. You know, I tried out for all the sports, and my uniform rarely got dirty because I had to sit on the bench, and I didn't complain.
Yeah, and that's the reality.
Because you were on the team, that's right.
I was on the team.
To push to other avenues of realizing what your strengths are and what your strengths aren't. And you're never going to learn that you're good or bad at something if nobody ever actually makes you strive for it.
That's
or you try for it. I mean, you got to try for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the same problem of what we have of the affirmative action and everything within the United States here, is you're not putting people in these positions based on their merits, but you're actually devaluing what you think of Hispanic people, or what you think of African American people, or Asian American people, or women, or whoever you're going to have for your specific group that you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Controls your thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, they're sneaking that back in through the back door of the University of California, from what I've heard. And I'm trying to find documents on it, but it's pretty well known. It's called a Hispanicization process at the University of California. They're getting ready for a whole new generation of the children of
the huge influx of illegal immigrants. Yeah.
So they're being toured on campus right now. It's spring, and so there's nothing against them, by the way. They're kids. I have nothing but admiration for their aspirations, but their tools are being used, and they're going to be part of the future CPS and welfare state administrative class that's going to ride herd over.
Thing of, you don't have, as a person, not necessarily every last person there that's a Nazi there is some horrible individual, but they are a part of a system that is horrible.
So we have to point out the irrationalities and the unfairness and the inequities of the system that has been put in place. And that's what I do. That's what I do.
That's our motto here. The truth will make you free.
It will make you free, but
the truth will make you free. So not knowing the truth and going to a university where some liberal professor is telling you that God's not real and you crawled from slime out of the ocean.
Most of them don't even believe their own BS, to tell you the truth. I know them. I talk to them. They just say what they
need
think
you to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, they're an employee. They have the FIGMO syndrome. You know what that stands for, right? FIGMO.
There's a great movie, before I forget, and then I'll back off and let you guys continue. It's called God's Not Dead. If you can look it up on YouTube or on the internet.
Wasn't there a satanic song in that? I'm sorry to break in that, but I think I'll have to find out. I'm pretty sure one of the main theme song had something crazy satanic about it.
Really?
Just to break off. Yeah. So before
no, I don't think so.
That.
No, that song "God's Not Dead." We use it as a commercial. What you might be thinking of is he's roaring like a lion. Well,
there's something
God also roars like a lion. Also,
right? No, it's a great tune. It's a great tune. I just check out the bands and but don't take my word for it. I will find the research.
It's a great movie, though. If you ever want to check it out, Kevin Sorbo plays this highbrow liberal professor in this big, hall every day, and he's talking about God. And one of the kids who's new in his class is a Christian. And he decides that he's going to stand up and he's going to defend his position that God is real and he can prove it and da-da-da-da-da. So they make a challenge, and the kid really, you got to see the movie, but the kid makes a great case for God, and some things happen in the movie, and this college professor ends up changed, But it's a great movie to check out. God's Not Dead is what it's called.
I'm hearing some information that Hollywood is beginning to finance these types of films because they found out there's a huge market for them. These types of messages.
People are tired of being propagandized to with sheer garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage fatigue. We're fatigued.
Literally. People are tired of it. They're tired of taking their kids to see the same old crappy Disney movies that are trying to propagandize them with all sorts of stuff. They're tired of going to the same movies themselves that are completely empty as far as
they just
real
need to wake up.
Matter.
This is like a horror film. They just need to wake up and truly understand that we are in a state of problems right now. We need to wake everyone up. So that's the biggest thing. Hollywood just needs to create a film about what we're going through right now, which I think was The Matrix. I think that was the point.
This world is so much worse than a horror movie, isn't it?
Well, in the 1970s,
what's going on in the world is
Committee of Science. They're talking about the entire plot of what essentially is The Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about media and films and whatnot, there's one series, I've only seen the first installment out of curiosity, that I could recommend, and that would be Silicon Valley. It's produced by Mike Judge. And
check that out.
Yeah, it's a really good skewering of the whole Silicon Valley culture. And they have some of the bigwigs in there in the background. I don't know how they got them to be in the movies, but they're idiots, they're dolts. It's a parody, of course. It's kind of like Office. What is it called? Office Space. Yeah,
or
directed by Mike Judge. Mike Judge was an engineer, so he's familiar with the culture. But it's spot on. And these technoids, and a lot of them are the trendy ones, right, that work for these companies. And one of you mentioned that you worked at Google. They're the targets of it. And they're figuring out that, hey, it's not really cool working for PayPal and enriching these transhumanist fiends who are trying to control every aspect of our lives. And there's going to be a rebellion amongst those groups of people. And it's going to start by them looking at their own little images, parodic as they are, in Silicon Valley, the series, and say, hey, let's go off on our own. We have a skill set. We're going to use it for society, for humanity.
Mike Judge is a genius. I think he did Idiocracy, if I remember.
Correct.
And if anybody, we're living Idiocracy. I couldn't stand the movie at first because I thought, man, this is crazy. But this is when I was asleep. So, now that I think about it, I'm like, wow, this guy had vision. There's nothing better than what that show is. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, essentially you end up drinking Gatorade because the dumber just keep getting dumber and dumber. And
electrolytes, man. We're going to water the plants with Gatorade because they need electrolytes to grow.
It just never ceases to amaze me how real that show is.
It's very real.
Man, when you watch some old movies that you haven't seen for years, after you've woken up, when you're awake to the truth, and then you go and watch Demolition Man or something like
Stargate.
To me, it was
crazy.
Omega
Man.
Man,
John, you've been fined $50 for swearing, and the people who live underground, and wow, it's
Soylent Green is another pretty accurate portrayal there of where we're going.
Right. We yell that out when we go by Burger King or McDonald's. I roll the window down and yell out, "It's people!"
So we don't watch shows here in our family, but just because of CERN and everything, I was trying to explain to my kids what CERN was like, and the only thing I could come up with was the show Stargate, which I've never seen. So the other day we fired it on there, and if you guys want to get a flashback from
the movie,
the whole thing is I had never seen it before, and I was blown away. I'm like, there's triangles everywhere. I mean, it's like the most satanic thing I've ever seen in my life. And we could only do it like 15 minutes into it, but they got to see the little entrance. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what CERN's happening right now. So anyway, just had to throw that out.
Yeah, I'm screening tomorrow at a media class. I teach a course called American Popular Culture for International Students. So I'm getting students from China, Philippines, you name it, Hong Kong, and teaching them from the ground up all these different types of symbols, what they mean. And we're showing tomorrow, we're going to watch The Wizard of Oz, the original Wizard of Oz, and look at all the different political allegory levels and teach them how to decode that they're being bombarded with.
Yeah, you ought to check out that Bill, what's his last name? Sills, yes. I'm showing part of that. Oh, you've heard of him. I'm showing part of that because tomorrow. It's all symbolic about money, about the fake money system.
Silver and gold, and as we know, L. Frank Baum was a theosophist, a follower of Madame Blavatsky. And that whole, maybe consciously or subconsciously, that whole Wizard of Oz was a political allegory about the civil rights and the East versus the West, the bankers versus the Midwestern farmer people, right? So once they begin to see that, wow, these are smart people, these students here. The penny drops, the coin drops, it clicks. And then they start doing this on their own. Which is
they start seeing it in everything.
Exactly. Just like you guys were mentioning, before you're awake, after you're awake. You see reality in a completely different way.
I want to go back to sleep.
No, that's why I understand why that guy on the Matrix there with the why didn't I take the blue pill? Yep. That guy, exactly.
Dude, no, I totally get that. At first, I'm like, man, that guy's a rip-off. Oh, he sucks. And then I'm like, wow,
work out good suck.
Yeah, the more awake you get to it, the more you realize
Joey
he's just the guy that
Pantolino
decides to take the weak way out.
I don't
that was Joey Pantolino's character, right?
The bald guy with the weasel
mustache.
Yeah,
he was making all the demands and said he wants to be somebody famous, like a rock star or somebody.
Yep.
That didn't work out for him.
Oh, and the metaphor there is beautiful, man. You couldn't do it any better than that.
I don't know how the Wachowski brothers, now brother and sister, how they came upon that whole allegory. What kind of access do you gentlemen know? Did they work for the Rand Corporation at some point? Or
I don't know. I know that I heard there that they'd gotten it from of what we were talking about earlier in the 1970s, the thing that essentially is the plot for the Matrix of putting people in pods essentially and harvesting their BTUs, as it were, like human batteries. And that was 1970. Oh my gosh. I cannot remember it for the life of me. It's not Paul Ehrlich. It's not Eco-Science. It's right about that same time, though.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's going to drive me crazy. I remember it, but
was it a Stanford Research Institute white paper or something? Or
it's something. I'd say it's something like that. But it
came out of a think tank.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a congressionally approved think tank memorandum that they had put out.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there you go. Any of you scriptwriters out there, just go back online and find some old government documents and build a movie around it.
Well, unfortunately, some of those they take it and just go a different direction there. If you'd see it of the propaganda that they'd use with, what was it? Not a District 9, but that one with Matt Damon and those guys of the
Born Identity?
Not the Born Identity. The one with the it had like the Agenda 21 UN type of a garbage in there and everything. It was the Elysium. That was
Elysium. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's a good old propaganda flick. You ever want to turn that one on? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like World War Z with the UN peacekeepers.
The little moon thing that was their planet or whatever. And that's
one that, as much as some people that I'd seen that weren't awake to stuff didn't get it. In some cases, they just will never get it because they refuse to watch anything that's got Tom Cruise. He did 2 movies there that I'd watched back to back that were absolutely amazing. One was Jack Reacher, which I thought was a great film as far as for people that aren't awake there and want to get a little bit better idea about how stuff actually works. And then, what was it? The Oblivion. Oblivion, as far as an allegory, was absolutely amazing. And so many people just didn't get it. They're just, it's just stupid.
Like
I don't get it.
A Few Good Men, I think, is definitely probably the best. That and the last one Kubrick did that alludes to the elite running the world, Eyes Wide Shut. Wow, if you haven't seen that, you got to check that out, man.
People that aren't awakened to anything will just look at all this of just it's glazed eyes of not even get it. They'll be, Blade Runner's ridiculous, The Running Man's ridiculous, all this stuff.
Jack.
Exactly.
Remember that? Remember that show? Where they swap minds? Yeah, they were swapping minds. Anthony Hopkins, Mick Jagger. Yeah, that's creepy.
Mick Jagger was in it.
He was the evil guy.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I enjoyed him in Performance. Was another creepy film based in London, the decadent 1960s London.
It's amazing how much truth they leak out in movies, even going back to like
knowing full well
Baby or something.
I mean, it's
get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do it for a reason, so that we don't really have an imagination. You know, what we can imagine is in the movies. So why rethink? Why think harder?
Mm-hmm. And I think they also do it for their own little inside delectation and entertainment, like getting over on the public. This is what we're doing.
Indeed. It goes back to the ancient rites of magic there or whatever, going past just Masonics and everything, of the idea of the court magician, the court advisor, the sage, the whatever, of just that this person being able to control everything with nothing but really deception, lies, all of this. They have no power in and of themselves. They're some of the weakest people you can possibly imagine, but they use you against you.
Yeah, they use powerful technologies such as cinema.
Yeah,
now it's all cinema. But days of the old world there, those guys, the modern day the masters of manipulation, of mind manipulation and everything, there is no ancient sorcerer that would not be so envious as to literally turn green at this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But the process hasn't changed. The manipulative process hasn't changed. The goal hasn't changed either.
Right.
The technology.
The magic of Hollywood is witchcraft. It always was. Holywood, it's what a witch's staff or whatever, warlock staff.
Yeah, it's a tree or something, right? Hollywood.
Holly is supposed to be one of their, for druidic magic, it's one of the high trees that you have, other than oak, and I believe birch and willow and a couple others are supposedly your sacred woods there and everything. But that's a whole nother bunch of garbage there. But as far as we're talking destroying people's imagination. Yeah, exactly. But as far as people's imagination there and destroying imagination, I'd say that goes for everything as far as their culture. That goes with video games, that goes with cartoons, that goes with movies, that goes with pornography, that goes with music. They'll say
you watch
everything.
Too much TV. See, if they show you something like Children of the Corn where the whole town is all Satanist, you'll think, oh, wow, that's just really a bad horror movie. But no, that's like that all over the country. You know? So when you talk about stuff from the X-Files, people think you watch too much TV when they hear a New World Order person saying
all programmed. Yeah. I mean, they're expected to think like this. I mean, what do they expect to do? I mean, they've been watching The Sleep Snatcher forever, and that's all they know.
Even in a lot of the stuff that they inject that sort of stuff into, of the X-Files or whatever, is always twisted to try and make it seem its own certain way. I mean, my God, look at all of those shows of how they portray the FBI or the CIA as the good guys, that it's the other intelligence agencies that are the bad ones. We're the good guys, or NCIS or something. Just give me a break. You guys are
watching this.
Well, it's as Alex Jones or one of those guys would say, you are Cobra, you are Spectre, you are the secret evil bad guy force trying to take over the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, even on a deeper level than television and cable and film, more recently, my research has taken me into the aural realm, AURAL, specifically so-called alternative music. So I've been trying to figure out what the mass appeal is of groups like Radiohead. And I've also been looking back into the origins of hip-hop and rap, going back to the German group Kraftwerk. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
The Trans-Europe Express, they're into early trance music. I think they were really ground zero. And they come out of Köln or Cologne, and where there was a great deal of experimentation with electronic music and laboratories under NATO guidance. So what I'm trying to find is the source of the funding for this type of experimentation. And then some kids over in Queens or in New York cities would hear Trans-Europe Express, and they would sample their music, and then we have beginnings of hip-hop and rap coming in the 70s and 80s, and now that's all you hear, electronica.
Right, soon it'll be called Hypnotica.
Yeah, well, I've seen people, they already have
because it's like
trip
a techno,
music or trip hop or something like
trip
that.
Hop, yeah, but it comes from West Germany under NATO. And I need to do the forensics. I need to find out where the money lays. But I think that was not Tavistock, but was Tavistock-like in engineering popular music to take us in a certain direction.
Well, I'd say,
that's why I hate drum machines. I hate rhythm machines. I want acoustic music. I want Americana. I want bands to play in real time, in real space. I hate Pro Tools. I hate multi-track recording. I want live.
Yeah, well, as real as it can be, as genuine, as sincere as it can be, is the importance there. But I'd say that I'd heard people talk about in the 1960s and everything like that of the engineered appeal of the rock and roll, of the free love movement and everything like that, of that being a lot more contrived than people understand. I mean, you get into the occult significances there of groups, even like the Beatles and whatnot, with Aleister Crowley and all these guys of promoting not only Eastern philosophy, but in some cases, actual literal Satanism and whatnot.
Yeah, they brought it over.
Yeah, you're talking about Laurel Canyon. We got to have a round table and get David McGowan, who's been on our show many times. Because what started with Tavistock and the British invasion then took over in the Laurel Canyon area in California, where you had all of these children and people who, you know, a lot of these music stars like Morrison and Zappa, their parents were all in naval intelligence. And this was all engineered by design to destroy the youth culture from protesting.
Well, I would like to be a part of that discussion if you hold such a roundtable, because I think some of that was liberatory for myself and for a number of people. So a lot of the stuff that came out of that, it was regressive, it was controlled, but it got away from the handlers.
Well, I'd say that goes with all that. That goes the same with even the rap music of the hip-hop itself, of the consciousness, rap hip-hop or whatever, of political dissidence music and everything, versus more the contrived sort of very empty, shallow, getting drunk all the time, going partying, slapping hoes and whatnot.
I'll take that old 60s music any day over what they call music today, hip-hop. and I mean, come on, what is that? And you know what? Those low tones and stuff is all satanic. It vibrationally,
that's why
death metal, stuff like that. It is. We're not even in. Everybody tunes to 440. That's not the actual. That's been changed also. It was 435.
You realize,
hertz.
Right, you realize who was the king of music before any music was ever here. In fact, Satan, Lucifer.
God created.
He was.
Right,
well,
God
Lucifer was in charge
music,
of the music.
But Lucifer was the angel of music. Bingo. That's
he was the
why
man,
they used,
right? So
yes.
So that's what I'm doing currently, and trying to disentangle it and figure it out. And yes, I would look at David McGowan and other people, but I have my other sources as well. That's going into. You remember a guitarist by the name of Peter Green, who was with the original Fleetwood Mac before they became a pop group. Well, he went to Germany, and he got in touch with some radical leftist group called the Red Brigade, the Baader Meinhof group, and they fed him some acid, and after that he was never really the same. So I think really the Rosetta Stone is in West Germany in the 60s, not Tavistock, West Germany. That's what you're hearing it first here, gentlemen. I haven't talked about this to anybody.
Back you up there, Darrell. West Germany is one of the hearts of occultism in the country of Germany itself, specifically Southwest Germany. If you're talking, that's the area of the Black Forest going back hundreds, if not thousands of years of occultism.
Right. There you go. And I don't think it ended.
Behind them is probably the Vatican once again, right? The Jesuit Freemason.
NATO took up the cudgel after that. And you're absolutely right. I think a lot of it comes out of the University of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. It was academic music. And this is where you hear the little scratches and little sounds and little atonal noises. And they theorized it. And it was just kind of like the parallel was abstract art, which we know now was a CIA creation, right? Getting away from
not quite so abstract itself, indeed.
And it was
there's a purpose to it, as you're saying there, of just destroying traditional ideas of what beauty is, of what art is, of what music is.
So I'm saying that there was a parallel, in the music, and especially in the pop music world. And we're hearing it now in the form of really high, super resolution, 96-bit downloads. Well, MP3s are crappy, but the music itself, when you listen to the engineering that goes into it, even if you watch it on YouTube, the making of a typical current Metallica album, you see the incredible, precise engineering that goes into this type
tens of millions of dollars easily.
Yes, and it's not just cut and pasting analog tape anymore. It's done through Pro Tools and through computing power.
I've been convinced there's some kind of programming power that music does have. I think it would be incredible to either pull up good research and see what people's brainwaves are actually doing while things are being played. And I think at some point you're going to find there is a couple different ways to program it in the brain.
If I might mention it, they took a bowl of rice with water in it, and they put it in one room blasting heavy metal, and in another one they blasted like Mozart or something.
Right.
And every day they would send people in to the one that was blasting the heavy metal, and they would curse the rice and swear at it and say rotten stuff. And they'd go into the other room playing classical music, and they'd tell the plant, I mean, not the plant, but they did this with plants too. But they'd talk to the rice with kindness and love, and in 30 to 60 days, the rice that was condemned and cursed playing heavy metal was black, and the same rice put in the same water on the same day in the other room was perfectly clear and still
now, they've
white.
done similar experience. I think it was the Japanese scientist who did something with ice crystals. They blasted certain types of music and crystal. They came all deformed, and the ones that we're listening to or exposed to Mozart came out nice and symmetrical. And
well, I'd say it's really
harmonious.
apparent when you hear the classical music of why that builds synapses in your brain and everything, and why it's stimulating you, is because the patterns themselves. It's the complexity, the simplicity of the music. Music has been so dumbed down to the point that basic rhythms and everything are all that many people can even be able to hold on to. That's why they like the rap music, or the pop music, or whatever.
Span. Yep.
Oh, if that, Jason, we're talking more like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's getting lower every year. So,
and there's another dimension. This might get a little too arcane, unless you have some listeners who are into this type of music. But I think the detuned guitar playing at lower frequencies has really transformed the human sensorium. And then they started adding a 7th string, and that's where they get really, really low.
It's demonic. So it's done by design. It's done by design demonically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
it's created, the death metal and different offshoots of that, and targeting a certain audience. And again, I try to listen to it, and I try to figure out the appeal of it. And the only thing I conclude is it's a pre-rational sort of attraction there, because it's definitely not the lyrics. It's definitely not
primal. It's the primalness
it's primal
of
anger.
the...
It's primal dissidence. It's primal discomfort, rage, whatever you want to say there, of people that are dissatisfied in their own lives, be it from broken home, whatever you want to say, problems as kids growing up with their parents, with school, with whatever. The reason why they latch onto that, and I think that the powers that be in many cases know that, and that's why that they're promoting it specifically to those subsections of society.
Yeah, they learned that from the early days of rock and roll, and then
teenage angst is what you're talking about.
Yep,
like back in the days of Alice Cooper, they were, teenage angst. I'm 18,
which is a great song, but by now it's been weaponized by a factor of 1,000%.
Oh yeah.
So that's the big difference. So they take all
Marilyn
the positive
Manson
aspects.
Said,
well, yeah, there you go.
That
9 Inch
the music
Nails.
is there just to get the people to come in, and once they come in, we can point them in the satanic direction we want them to go in.
And all the characters in that band have names that are composites of a serial killer and a sex symbol. So Marilyn Manson, Twiggy Ramirez, right? Twiggy is the model, and Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and on, deliberately.
They say we're crazy. Yeah, they say we're crazy. People listen to stuff like that. It's insane.
A little psychosis.
He's actually
a
high
Sigmund
priest.
Freud or somebody would find to just be get a field day with some of these guys. I mean, he himself, if you start getting into that in Freudian psychology, is itself built upon occultism and everything like that there. But a lot of these people fall right into all sorts of psychological traps that even a first-year psychiatrist there or something should be able to pick up on that there's something not right. These are the people that you need to have on the SSRIs and stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Brian Warner, I've read his autobiography. He was just a Midwestern boy and an ordinary guy. I still haven't found out.
Now he's a high priest in the Church of Satan Temple of Seth.
He is?
Yeah, I'm sure he's attended many sacrifices, and, you know, he rips the pages out of the Bible on stage. Curses God, says kill your parents, and wow. What a wonderful, nice guy, huh?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he used to go to church and try to get young boys and others to have homosexual affairs with him, to go outside, and little girls and little boys. They kicked him out of the church because he said, you know, he'd go to churches to try to pick people up and taunt them and say God's not real, Satan is God, and all this crap. He's troubled, man. He's possessed at this point, in my opinion.
I think they're all possessed. I mean, I have 6 minutes of audio of everyone selling souls. I mean, I played a little bit a while ago. It says 6 minutes, and I gave up because I was only made it to the R's, and I'm like, I'm tired of searching for this. I went 3 days on it, selling my soul. So.
Well, and I mean, Katy Perry, a great example there. I don't even listen to that garbage music there or anything, but you go from Katie Hudson, who's supposed to be a gospel singer and everything like this, whose career is going nowhere and isn't promoted at all, and the second she starts dressing like a whore and putting out completely shallow music that goes nowhere and promoting the establishment and the occultism and everything like that with the Illuminati one eye signs and all this type of stuff, then her career just takes off.
Yep. Well, Google search celebrities with one eye. I mean, they're everywhere. Everywhere. They all flash it. I mean, there's like compilations of it. I mean, it's like, who isn't flashing the eye? I mean, we're in the nerd crowd. I mean, this is definitely not the
You don't get to be a big rock star or celebrity unless you sign a deal with the devil, brother.
Yeah, my music isn't going too far. It's kind of sitting there.
I never signed. No, I mean, you know.
I'd really be interested in reading the investigative reportage, maybe a Dave McGowan. The 60s are interesting, but I'm really more interested in someone like Clive Davis or Jimmy Iovine or Iovine.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Those types of the contemporaries who really brought a lot of the stuff forward for now. For
Clive Davis, it was at his anniversary party that they sacrificed Whitney Houston in her room above the big Palladium where they were doing that event.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, it was a party for Clive Davis. He signed her.
So I mean, he wasn't involved in that. Is that what you're saying? Or
are you kidding me? Of course he's a high-level Satanist. He's Clive Davis, right? You don't get to be huge. It was,
yeah, I think I'm thinking of Clyde Lewis.
No, Clive Davis is what we're talking about.
Yeah, he's the founder of Arista Records, and I think he used to be with some other large corporate music company. He's a talent spotter and finder and packager and controller of some sort.
What's that weird guy? The weird guy who was on trial for killing some girl at his mansion.
Roman Polanski or Phil Spector?
Phil Spector. Wow, he's a character too, huh?
Yeah, I did the entire thing on that there on a show, and honestly, guys, looking at that stuff, I don't know that he did or he didn't, but I do know for certain that the way the media reacted to it is exactly how they react every time they want to put somebody under.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a united front, literally, and I am using a communist lingo there to say it, an actual united front against him in the media, period.
Do you think something of similar nature is being done to Bill Cosby?
Well, that's actually something that I wondered there. I wouldn't put it past anybody in Hollywood to be involved in pedophilia or something there, or attacking young women. But at the same time, he's a figure that is much more like whatever you'd say, a holdover of a better time in American television, which, I mean, there is no good time, but still.
Historically, right before they do kill celebrities, they usually will either take them down,
destroy them,
or have them play some weird role in a movie, and then they end up either in that position or in a bathtub in the same place as the last movie. It's just like so ironic that nobody's gonna believe it. They're like, "Wow, that's just weird."
From Creed,
yeah.
Or
stranger than fiction, guys.
When I was seeing that they were taking down Bill Cosby, I figure he pissed somebody off. It's like this. Michael, Mr. Jackson, you're a pedophile. You know, we used you and raped you when you were a kid, and we know you've had relationships with kids, and we can destroy you. What? Hey, you know what? We're going to bring you into court. We're going to give you a little taste of what it's like.
He was trying to take him down. I mean, he was coming out
over your entire catalog to us.
Yeah.
He owned a great deal of the
he owned more than them.
He owned the Beatles catalog at one point.
He did. And all his music. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, these are the...
Once you make the deal, there's no getting out. You're going to die. I mean, if I had signed the record deal and I was on stage tonight and everywhere I go telling people the truth, that, yeah, I made a mistake, I sold my soul to the devil, but if you listen to most of my music, I'm waking you people up, and they're going to kill me soon. So I just want you to know that it's coming and all that.
Well, Michael Jackson was going in that direction. He was publicly at concerts calling out these people. So they decided to work him to death.
His last album, Invincible, was all about the Illuminati. It was about him, basically standing up to them, and they didn't push it at all. They actually stopped that from like really selling well. All this other stuff sold.
The last tour was going to be called "This Is It," because this is it. I believe we are going to face free humanity. Is going to face the witches and Illuminati and hounds of hell by UN forces. This is it. This is the battle. It's coming, and it could be on at any second. All of a sudden, the power just goes out in the middle of a show and never comes back on again. And that's what we need to
that's the physical fight, though. The
spiritual.
Psychological or emotional or informational war that we're locked in right now is a cultural war, and it's one that's taken decades to fight, and however long until that actual physical war kicks on, it's going to be that. So it could go another day, it could go another 20 years here, but what we need to really buckle down on fighting there is the long war, is the long fight, is rather than wanting to die for something, we need to want to live for something.
Bring back the information, help these kids, and wake the people up. I mean, this is what people need to be doing right now. I mean, that's what we're called to do. If we're sitting around doing nothing.
Well, it's what the bad guys have been doing for the longest time there. They've set up multi-generational plans. They know what they're going to do. They know that they're going to have to use decades and decades of indoctrination and planning and working together with different people that you wouldn't normally work with there and everything to get this to work.
But I think what your guest was saying is that the young people like you, Seth's only 22 years old. And I need to repeat that over and over again when he's on this network, because this guy sounds like he's on. I'm 51, long-haired veteran of rock and roll, now doing radio. I've been awake since 2008, researching day and night, eventually became a host and then a network founder. And Seth is like, man, he's on fire, man. 22 years old. If there are other people like him that are not buying what college professors are saying, man, I'd love to go with you for the day and just hang out and meet the students. And I bet you people get real excited to hear your brand of realism and stuff, because I think there's a hunger for it. Yes, Mr. Darrell. Is it okay if I call you Darrell?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is, and I'm already starting to break through the blockade that the administration, and I've done it legally, through legal talent, by the way. I've had to call out a really incredible civil rights attorney in Oakland by the name of Dan Siegel, to serve these people notice that they're not going to be pushing me around, and I'm going to be fighting every step of the way to assert myself, my freedom of speech, intellectual freedom, and to get this truth out. And believe me, I had the three top UC University of California attorneys, including Janet Napolitano's attorney, in the room, listening to me and hearing me and saying, wow, this guy's not crazy. He's making perfect sense. I could tell that I was educating them. So they're going to have a hard time trying to get rid of me, because if they do, all that information is going to go public. I have a book right there, and it's a whole book on the UC system.
Make sure it comes to True Real News first.
Well, yeah.
break it with us.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, can I ask Seth a question?
I had a question.
Little research.
Do you think that...
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, no. Go ahead,
Seth
and Jason.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask him in a second. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, I had a question for Seth, just because I'm doing this music research. You're 22 years old, so you're a product of the DJ culture, right? So what is it? What's the secret behind these people that built themselves into superstars like Dead Mouse and what's the Steve Aoki and
I don't even listen to any of that music. For the most part, myself, it's a lot of the like classic rock type of stuff of what you consider there from like 60s to late 70s, early 80s rock music, and then a lot of the more political, angsty type of civil dissidence rap music. And
his intro is Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses.
That was a good one.
That was the last good album I ever bought in a store.
That was your pick too, wasn't it, Rick?
I'm trying to understand it. So Seth, you don't know about EDM, electronic dance music?
Yeah, I know about it. It's just I don't listen to any of it. I know a lot of people that go all the time to the raves and stuff and are dropping ecstasy and wasting their time with all this BS of the electronic dance music parties with the body paint and the just doping out and everything. So. Something for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think Seth's typical, though. He's very atypical on this. So, he's not a good one to interview for. He's very wise for his age. Very wise.
Yeah, Seth is more likely to sit back and just take a few puffs on a J and then go on air and spew out truth for 2 hours. That's my boy. We adopted Seth, by the way. We're going to change his last name to Champagne Oliver Champagne.
Okay. Sounds like a good deal.
Good times. Well, how are we doing there for time there, Rick?
You guys can go as long as you want tonight, man. We don't.
Okay. How are you doing for time there, Darrell?
I got to run in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, then let's start giving it any points you want to make as far as anything you want to talk to or speak to right now. The floor is yours, my man.
Well, I came into this discussion wanting to talk a little bit about the so-called snitch culture. And if I could recommend just a couple of books that your listeners would find really fascinating. Number one on the list would be a book called Snitch Culture. It was published in 2001. This is when before it really started to go downhill after the 9/11 attacks, right, with the Department of Homeland Security. And that's a book by Jim Redden, Redden. It's published by, I think, Feral House, which is an independent publisher. And by the way, independent publishers are making a big comeback right now, and I see that as a positive movement along with a podcast and independent media such as this program as well. And then there's a book that's by a corporate media combine, but it's still good. It's called Stasi-Land, Stsiland. That was published in 2003, and that was written by a Australian-German woman by the name of Anna Funder, Funder, and she's fluent in German. And she went with a former East Germany and interviewed any number of people who were part of the state surveillance apparatus known as Stasi for short. And one interesting, and the book is free of cliches. She doesn't talk about the banality of evil and all the stuff that we've heard over and over again. It's a really, really fresh perspective of a police state, which eventually collapsed of itself, but there's still these people around, right? So what she found out is that most of them are firm in their belief that they could snitch and rat out people and inform on them and keep records on them because in the last analysis, it didn't hurt them. That's their out. It didn't hurt anybody. So we're okay. So that's recommended reading because, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're at in the United States of America. We are in Stasi land, but we have the electronic surveillance infrastructure in place that makes East Germany look like kindergarten.
Oh, yeah, they wish they could have. Those guys salivate at the idea of even having something like that. I think it's honestly beyond some of their imaginations.
Absolutely.
It's more like a wet dream for some of these guys.
And I want to send a message out to all the college students out there. Do not allow yourself to be trained into a professional snitch, because that's what's going on in a lot of the professional schools, where it's nursing, medicine, psychotherapy, anything outside of the technology, or maybe even there. You're being trained to contribute to the snitch society, the Stasi society, and you're not going to be rewarded. You are going to be turned on as the analogy was made earlier, the rungs on your ladder of success are going to be sawn out from under you. You may think that's your only opportunity, but be honest, be square, and be fair to your fellow human beings, and don't fall for the easy temptation that's going to be handed out to you to rat people out. I'm surrounded by rats in my classroom. They've been
Professor.
Yes,
during
sir.
The Bolshevik Revolution, 7 out of 10. Same thing during Nazi Germany. 7 out of 10 people were willing to rat out their friends and neighbors for a little food or water.
Absolutely.
What do you think this time's going to be? Well, probably like 8 or 9 out of 10, right?
Yeah, it's pretty horrific because we have the culture in place where it's okay to rat people out. And when I was coming up, that was forbidden. You don't
have to tell us your name. Just right? Oh my God! See something, say something.
Exactly.
At Walmart.
She's my boss, Janet Napolitano. I mean, they put her in that position. The dung beetle herself, right? Who got run out of
honestly,
DOJ.
That's got to be kind of an insult to dung beetles. They perform an important part or important function in the ecosystem where they're located. I mean, what does Janet Napolitano do besides take up space?
She's there as a threat, an obvious threat to any of us who step out of line.
Mr. Napolitano looks more like Judge Napolitano than anything.
I saw her on Jon
thought
Stewart.
That was really unfortunate. I felt bad for him because they have the same last name and they look so damn similar. I assumed that they were related, but they're not. It's
Judge Napolitano's pretty cool. He must be a total patriot. But I saw Janet Napolitano on the Jon Stewart show. And they were joking around about all these crazy people who were worried about FEMA camps and stuff. And they're laughing and joking. John.
Well, Jon Stewart is now going to have to retire because he's been shown to be pretty much of a shill for Wall Street and the establishment.
Oh, and the Zionists, too.
Exactly. Yeah, so he's done. I don't know. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if
Jimmy Kimmel's in a lot of hot water these days too over vaccines, and he's got what's his face
the guy
there
that
on there
trying to replace Jon Stewart. They put that controversy out there, and they stirred that up so much to try and make him more popular among young people and everything. Whereas Stewart is a hack.
Sure, they're replacing him with someone new. But these guys are all going to follow the trajectory of Bill Cosby.
Most definitely.
Yeah, they're going to meet an unfortunate. I mean, that's sad, but they took the deal, right? They took
once
the deal.
You've served your purpose, once you've outlived your usefulness, then there's no purpose for you. They got to get rid of you, and it doesn't matter if they got to, find out some stuff, have some woman that they'll get to claim that you raped her or whatever. And I mean, and some of these people, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but at the same time, it's not beyond the realm of possibilities for them to set you up, as they do it every day.
Anybody can be set up. They can remotely access your computer, plant child pornography, and then kick your door in, seize your computers, and say, no, I mean, seriously, if these guys get you, think about it. Look at people like Diana. Don't you think she had pretty good security? But I mean,
absolutely.
Hey, they put her. Do you know they stole that car? That car
the Mercedes
she was riding in. Yes, it was stolen, then recovered. And then it went to a shop to get some work done. And I imagine that's when the remote control steering device that slammed them into the 13th pillar in that tunnel was installed. Because they found out after, when they examined the car, that there were holes for a contraption that went on there that was no longer there. But, I mean, it's just...
and they wouldn't release
Michael Hastings...
Mercedes.
Excuse me?
They wouldn't return the vehicle to Mercedes engineers. So
you heard all about that. Yes, Mercedes was trying to clear themselves and say they wanted to examine the car and find out what could have been the possible.
Yeah, it was
they wanted, and they wouldn't give it back. That's right. Yes, he's correct.
Well, the scary thing is with all these RFIDs that are sitting there broadcasting out from all these new cars, it just takes.
Man, if they want to get you seriously, there is nobody on this planet, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way or anything, because we all have our spiritual armor on. Yeshua, Jesus King, the real God, the Creator, not the Destroyer. the people who are running this world worship the destroyer. They do their rituals. They do what they do. They're not trying to help humanity. They're trying to exterminate us. But the bottom line is we stand in the right, and as people are waking up, if God allows them to, this is a beautiful time, as bad as it's going to become, and we're facing a Holocaust.
There's never been
the good news is it's a beautiful time for people to be waking up to the truth, because that's what will really set you free.
Indeed.
And this has been a great show. Thank you so much. We'd love to have you back on our show or their show real soon to talk about other things. And when I get David McGowan to come back on, I'll definitely invite both you and Seth and Jason.
I appreciate it. I love talking about that era of music.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome. What a great guy. Have you ever heard any of his interviews when he was on Networks?
Absolutely. And I have an autographed copy of the book as well as a reading copy of the book. I've read it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Strange.
The Laurel Canyon book. Yeah.
Right, yep. And he also did another one, Programmed to Kill.
I have that. I have
mind control. Yeah,
I have the F word, all of that.
Wow.
The serial killer one.
Right on.
You've been a great guest, man. You want to do a show on this network? A lot of the guests end up becoming hosts. Think about
let's talk more about
1 hour a day. 1 hour a week, if you want.
Okay,
you could start like that.
If I can play live music, Americana, acoustic music.
You can play any kind of music you want, so long as it's not rap or degrading Jesus Christ or something.
Whoa.
No drum machine. It's a drum machine-free music show.
No, well, if it's a good rap song that praises Jesus, we might let that slide.
You got my rap songs, have you? You got to listen to my stuff.
All right.
Jason does some pretty good stuff there, but thank
Great
everybody
show,
for
guys. What an awesome
gentlemen.
show.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you join us there, Darrell, and I would definitely look forward to speaking with you again. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me, Jason. Thank you for doing the production on this and everything, Rick. And join us this coming Wednesday for the next broadcast of Two Real News. God bless and good night.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.